Okay, time to start the game. I'm on the wrong side. That's right. Time to play chess with myself. Your Honor, the defense, the prosecution, I would like the right to cross-examine the witness. I would like the right. Bailiff, please arrest Mr. Cuthbert. I am holding him in contempt of court. Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, wait. You didn't really think this through, did you? Instead of following his orders, the bailiff walks over to the judge's podium and whispers something into his ear. What? I see. Very well, then. Thanks, Aster. What are they saying? It appears that Ms. Steelman has somehow predicted that this would happen. In accordance with her wishes, Mr. Cuthbert may act as the prosecutor in her stead. What the hell? You can't be serious. I am honestly just as surprised as you are, Ms. Tamora. But Ms. Steelman has apparently designated him as her stand-in. It's unorthodox, but it's also legal. You recall something strange Steelman asked you the other day. What would you do if one of your clients was guilty? I suppose I'd withdraw and tell them to find another lawyer. And if no one else would represent them? I don't know. It would definitely be a hard choice for me. But I would never be able to represent them if I knew the truth. I just can't stand by and let a murderer escape justice. I see. Steelman, did she somehow know this would happen? What? Oh my gosh, it's so weird having her on the other side. Well, this isn't how I expected the trial to go. Shortly after you barged in onto the prosecutor's table, Celeste awkwardly followed behind you. Curiously, she only did so after the bailiff didn't arrest you. I guess we're really doing this. What's wrong? This feels weird. We're on the other side of the courtroom. I mean, this is where the prosecutor is supposed to stand. No, this feels way too jarring. Ruby, can we switch tables? Oh, it's like they predicted all of my complaints. What? Please ignore her. No, this is way too weird. Tyrion, get her to switch with us. Celeste, for the love of... I genuinely do not care. Cuthbert can have this side if he wants it so badly. With that out of the way, let's resume proceedings. Assuming that we're all at our preferred spots. We are, Your Honor. As much as you hate to admit it, you are more comfortable here. Oh. Not that you want to encourage... Why wouldn't you want to encourage a face like that? With all these interruptions, I think it best to review the proceedings up until now. The prosecution proposed that Beatrice Frega's motive for the murder was to claim the victim's inheritance. However, the defense brought forth a witness who testified that Beatrice was disinherited by her father 5 years ago. Am I correct, Ms. Tamora? You are, Your Honor. Very well. Considering the circumstances, I think it's best to have Lady Frege repeat her testimony. Bailiff, please escort Lady Frege to the stand once more. Ms. Frege, could you please give your testimony to the court once more? Of course. One day, we all woke up and discovered that Beatrice had fled from our home. She left a note for us, and in it, she renounced her name and denounced my father. My father later called me and my sister into his study. He told us that he'd completely disowned Beatrice and removed any claim she had to the Frege estate. It was probably a threat to us in case we ever chose to go down the same path she did. He wanted to make an example of her. This all happened 5 years ago. So your father disinherited Beatrice shortly after her departure? Yes, he did. As such, Beatrice would have no motive to murder her father. Any inheritance she could have received would be long gone by the night of the murder. Is that really true, though? That must have been a surprise for all of you. Did she tell anyone else about her plan? No, she didn't. She left without a word to anyone. She should have spoken with us first. She's sincere. Okay. From what I've heard about your father, I don't find that surprising. That's... It's clear to everyone involved that my client was not treated well by her father. That's what drove her to sacrifice her claim to the Frigate estate. My father had many responsibilities. He had much to consider. And that justified his treatment of your sister? Despite being her witness, Miss Tamura really isn't holding back against Miriam. That seems like a drastic reaction to simply leaving her home. Father and sister already had many disagreements before this. It made it clear that he wouldn't tolerate her many acts of insubordination. I imagine this was the last straw for him. That sounds in character for him. Would William Frege really do something so extreme? Regardless of his personal feelings, House Frege holds a lot of financial and political power. Would he really change his inheritance so haphazardly? Good question. It's probably a threat to us. It was. My father wanted everything to be his way, and anyone who didn't comply was punished. It's a terrible way to treat anyone, much less his own family. This all happened 5 years ago. To Beatrice Fleddy must have been less than 13 years old at the time. Can't imagine how that must have been. ... Can we really trust... Oh... I remember it vividly, my father's words. The look on Leafa's face when she realized Beatrice was gone. I even remember... It's all my fault. The way the sun was shining through the window that morning. Excuse me? Remember that moment with clarity. My father made sure of that. That was like a painful memory for her. She would be falsely blame herself for what happened. That's not to press her more than necessary. Felt it while you were watching from the gallery. Part of her testimony doesn't match with what you learned from your investigation. It must have been something that Leaf had told you. Don't give me hints. Alright. I'm Frege routine studying like so. You leave his thoughts, you know that he entered his study to make some sort of adjustment to his will. Yeah, but like... It seems like weird that he was changing his will, but I don't know what kind of changes he was making. On the night of the murder, Beatrice finally returned to her home. She arranged a meeting with her father. This meeting and his plan. Beatrice angered William enough for him to declare that he would be disinheriting her that night. I don't know. I think I'm contradicts this piece of evidence that was different when I was playing the other side.
Objection!
Miss Frege, it's clear that you're regretful of how your eldest sister was treated. That guilt must have eaten at you for all these years. Yup. Cuthbert, I know you don't have a good history with the witness, but you shouldn't rub salt in her wounds. Oh man, she's still got an attitude. Kinda love it. I was merely pointing out the witness's personal connection to the defendant, Miss Tamori. She clearly regrets not standing up to her sister all those years ago. Standing up for her sister. But perhaps she's trying to make up for that. By lying to protect her. Excuse me? I did nothing of the sort. Miss Frege, you testified that your father disinherited Beatrice 5 years ago. However, I have testimony from another witness who spoke with the victim on the night of the murder. After Beatrice's meeting with William Frege, he openly declared that he would be removing her from his will. He even entered a study to draft a new will to reflect that decision. So that raises the following question. Why would the victim need to declare that he was disinheriting the defendant? Doesn't make sense if he already had disinherited her 5 years ago. Is that so? Well, who did you hear this from? It's clear that they had no understanding of my father's estate. They had no understanding? Miriam, this testimony came directly from your sister, Lifa Frege. What? And she should have also been present during this alleged meeting 5 years ago. Oh yeah. Well, she must be mistaken then.
Objection!
Objection. Your Honor, can we trust secondhand testimony from a witness who isn't here? Wouldn't it make more sense to have Lifa give her testimony directly? I must agree with you, Ms. Tamura. Lifa Frege should be allowed to clear up this misunderstanding. She looks way too confident. What is she planning? Not sure if it was intentional. Miriam's testimony was false. Are you lying to protect Beatrice? And if so, is Ms. Tamura expecting Lifa to do the same? Maybe Lifa's lying. Bailiff, please escort Lifa Frege to the stand. Now I get to play as Ms. Tamura. Ms. Frege, when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that your father decided to disinherit Beatrice. He decided this after their meeting on the night of the murder, is that correct? Yes, I did say that. See, Lifa, Cuthbert doubts the testimony given by your younger sister. He seems to think that she's committed perjury. What? I wouldn't go as far as to say. Witness lying under their oath is a serious crime. It would have harsh consequences, even for someone of your sister's status. She's gonna try to protect Miriam by lying, and that's what's gonna make me have to examine her? Wonderful. Are you saying that you can corroborate your sister's testimony? Miss Tamura, you can't just intimidate the witness. I have no idea what you're talking about, Cuthbert. I'm just telling the witness what may or may not happen depending on what she does next. Dude, she's getting sneakier and sneakier, man. Gulp. So, Lifa, assuming Miriam wasn't lying under oath, could you please testify to the court to confirm what your sister said? Yes, of course. You see, Miriam was quite young when my father called us into his study 5 years ago. She didn't understand what he was really doing. My father would often lie to us. It was one of the many ways that he kept us in line. The encounter that Miriam described was just another one of his lies. Despite their disagreements, my father would never disinherit Beatrice without a good reason. He always held on to the possibility that she would become desperate enough to return home. The truth is that none of us knew what my father was planning for House Frege's future. See, Cuthbert? The truth is much more complicated. No one could have really known what William Frege was planning for his estate. Lifa is definitely trying to cover for Miriam, and Miss Tamura is playing her like a fiddle. Luckily for you, she's not the only person that gave her statement to you. Cross-product examination. Saying that Miriam's testimony was based on a misunderstanding? Yes, my father was never direct with his actions. He just knew just what to say to plant seeds of doubt into people's minds. I'm aware of how it sounds, but he had much to consider outside his family. The Freges are one of the pillars of Wivengard, after all. Keeping the family aligned with our house's goals was one of his responsibilities. Clearly she doesn't agree with what she's saying. Is she in denial? She's trying to keep the family name clean. So you really think that your father would lie about something so important? It was of great importance. That's why he had to lie. He wanted to make Miriam understand the consequences of disobeying him. What kind of father does that? But if he truly wanted to scare Miriam, why wouldn't he disinherit Beatrice? Even after wait, no. He didn't hold on hope that she'd come home. That's why Leafa had to stop people from cleaning her room. And what about that dog from the beginning? Even after she renounced her name and denounced him, my father was always more pragmatic than vengeful. I imagined that he expected her to fail on her own, and if she ever came back, she would be forced to rely on him. If he could make someone like Beatrice feel powerless, he could get the rest of us to fall in line. Looking back, I suppose that's all we ever were to him, assets to be appraised and loaded. Appraised and what? Traded. Bit of resentment. If that were true, why would he tell you that he was disinheriting Beatrice? Perhaps it was a warning. I had my own share of disagreements with him after all. Even now, I have no way of knowing if he's telling me the truth or not. Okay, I guess I contradict this with the arranged marriage. Did William Frege really lie to them? From what we've heard, I honestly wouldn't put it past him. He clearly had very little respect for his daughters, but there were other people that he did respect. Right. Was there anyone else he would have told the truth to?
Objection!
Ms. Frege, did you really have no idea about House Frege's future? No, I didn't. My father's kept secrets. So it kept wasn't allowing him to manipulate us. Oh wait. My father made sure that. But with Beatrice gone, you would have been the one to inherit your father's estate. Would you really be ignorant of your father's plans for House Frege? Unfortunately for you, I don't think you'd be that careless. In fact, I have it on good authority that you knew exactly how William's inheritance would be divided before that night. What? Leafa, according to Lord Von Sanctus, you were arranged into a diplomatic marriage with his son. You expressed resistance to this arrangement, am I correct? I have no reason to comment on that matter. Cuthbert, the witness's personal matters are hardly any of our business. Yes, I must ask that you keep this discussion relevant to the case. Your Honor, Leafa's resistance to this marriage is exactly how I know that her testimony is false. She was extremely averse to this marriage, and because of that, she made sure to know every detail about it and how it would affect her and her house. And that includes how House Frege would be inherited by her future husband. That raises the question, Leafa. If you already knew the intricate details of this marriage, why would your father tell you that he was disinheriting your sister? That statement would only make sense if Beatrice was already in his will before. What? Guess you wouldn't have to tell her because I already knew. That would render Miriam's testimony false and constitute a motive for the defendant.
Objection!
You present a decent argument, Cuthbert, but your claims rely on one assumption. And what assumption would that be, Ms. Timor? Even if he was lying, the victim declared that he was revoking Beatrice's inheritance. She must have already been named in the will previously, otherwise there would have been no need for him to say that. It wouldn't make any sense otherwise. And that's where your assumption is. You're assuming that William Frege was acting logically. What are you talking about? It's clear that William Frege was extremely controlling of his daughters. By your own admission, Leafa Frege was resistant to the marriage arranged by her father. In addition to that, Miriam Frege found herself wrapped in controversy regarding the Nightgrave trial a few months ago. And finally, to make matters worse, Beatrice Frege, the prodigal child, finally returned and made a public appearance during the Lord's Ball. What are you trying to insinuate? In his eyes, William Frege's ability to keep his daughters in line was clearly weakening. He must have gotten desperate and made a grand declaration in a feeble attempt to scare you, Leafa, even if that declaration was clearly inconsistent. But he wouldn't... Your ability to remember must be muddled by the shock of your father's death. The statement couldn't have possibly been true. If by some chance it were true, that would make you guilty of perjury. Or perhaps it was Miriam that was lying in her testimony. If your father's statement were true, the court might be inclined to investigate her for lying on the stand. Gulp. Miss Timora, are you threatening her? As I said before, I am merely stating the facts. The witness is free to act as she sees fit. I'm just asking her to consider the potential consequences of what she says next. What do I do? Damn it, she's pressuring Leafa to side with her. She's clearly conflicted, though. Isn't there anything you can do? You feel a sense of clarity when you look at her. Is the Eye of Horus reacting to her stress? You wonder. I'm sorry, I need time to think. Please don't stare at me like that, Mr. Cuthbert. Wait a minute. Grr. No, wait. It's too late.
Naught can remain concealed.
Naught can remain concealed. I activated the Empowered Eye. Prove what was on his will. Need to tell the truth without harming Miriam or Beatrice? Why don't you want to harm Beatrice? Beatrice couldn't have possibly done this. I'm sure Miriam also has her reasons. Oh, she's... I didn't realize that this was Leafa. Hang on. Wait, she's a conjurer now? I thought she was a nothing in the last chapter. Nah. Oh, she's the wayward daughter because she does conjuration. No, wait. Oh. Beatrice does illusion. Right, okay. Let's go back and read this. I need to make sure I tell the truth without harming Miriam or Beatrice, which is possibly does. Reasons they couldn't rely on me back then, but they can now. You didn't get any leads from that. You should try something else. It's good text, though. Father, I know we had our differences, but I did love you, and I never wanted you to die. Aw. Huh. This was under your bed. How did both of the swords find their way into Beatrice's room? Could Tracker have... No, Miss McCoy's sword is one thing, but he couldn't possibly have broken into a Haraldson gallery. Although he was extremely fixated on it. Does she know how Celeste's sword was taken? Who's Tracker? Know about the rats? What? Why am I thinking about this? Darn. Need to make sure. Why would Miriam say those things? Am I misremembering what happened? No, I would have remembered something like that. She must be trying to protect Beatrice. Miriam's testimony was a conscious lie. Beatrice's inheritance wasn't revoked until the night of the murder. Ah. Beatrice, after all these years, you finally return. I can't believe that this is how things have ended up. If only I was as strong as you, I'd be able to endure this. As much as I hate to admit it, this trial is a perfect opportunity to back out of the arranged marriage. Von Sanctus's holdings are weakening by the day. I doubt he'll be able to put up much resistance. Once Beatrice inherits the Once who inherits the estate? She's assuming that Beatrice will inherit House Frege. That confidence must mean that she's certain of what's in William's will. How do you prove that? Ruby Timora, I've heard stories about her. I never expected Beatrice to hire someone like her. I wonder if she'll be at the will reading tomorrow. A will reading? She must be talking about William Frege's will. I believe you've had enough time for deliberation, Mr. Cuthbert. Are you able to prove the defendant's motive or not? I'm not, Your Honor. At least, not yet. It's clear we won't get anywhere until we can confirm the state of William Frege's will. And we can easily confirm that tomorrow morning, when William Frege's will is read to his family. How did you... Yeah? I see. Once his will is read, it will become public record. I suppose I have no choice but to suspend this trial until such time that William Frege's will is read.
Objection!
Objection! This is ludicrous. The case against my client is completely outrageous. We spent the entire court proceedings arguing if her motive even exists. The prosecution has very little evidence that physically implicates my client. Oh. Miss Timora, you clearly don't believe that the defendant had anything to do with the murder. Of course I don't. She's completely innocent. Well, if your client didn't murder the victim, who did? Oh, he learned how to be a prosecutor. Yeah! You sneaky little... Your Honor, with no other suspects, are you in a position to pass a verdict? No, I am not, because that's how it works in this world. Mr. Cuthbert is correct. The court does not have enough information to pass a verdict. Until the Inquisition has time to investigate these new developments, I will be suspending today's trial. We will resume the trial tomorrow afternoon. Court is adjourned. Well, that happened. Sorry, I kind of acted without thinking. But out of everything that happened today, I can't believe that Steelwind somehow knew you would do that. Right, that is strange. Eris must have told her. Did she seriously predict what I'd do off of that one conversation? Considering how things turned out, you suppose she was right on the mark. That was still a big leap of faith. Anyways, we have some time to ourselves. You want to dance? Yeah, today's been exhausting, for a lot of reasons. And your work has only started. You still have no idea who Beatrice's accomplice was. I know who it was. The will reading was just an opportunity to stall for time, so the question remains, who really murdered William Frege? Wait, aren't I arguing that... What the hell was that? Why is your son filling in for Arya? Listen, I have the situation under control. If that's true, I'd hate to see a situation you consider out of control. Eris, my father is not pleased with today's developments. You promised that the verdict would be passed before William Frege's will became public record. This has thrown quite the wrench into our plans. I understand. Cuthbert is just confused, but he's not a threat to us. We'd better hope you're right, Timora, or else your poor ward might suffer the same fate as Prosecutor Steelwind. What? House Frege is too important of a prize for us to let go. Bring us results, Timora, or else we'll continue to take more drastic measures. Yeah, let's save it. I gotta use the restroom. First time since the Lord's Ball, you're finally able to get some sleep. You woke this morning refreshed, but also a little anxious about the results of the will reading. You arrive back at Frege Manor and see that Beatrice, Leafa, Miriam, and Von Sanctus have all gathered. What's Von Sanctus doing? Weird. Alright. Okay. Sanctus. Gavin. Got it. Along with Ms. Timora, who is accompanying Beatrice as her attorney, you're not really sure what to say to her after everything you've done. The air still feels too awkward to approach her and talk about it. Executor? Thank you for... it's Aldaris. Thank you all for coming here today. As William Frega's close associate, I must express my deepest condolences for your loss. I think I speak for all of Wyverngard when I say, enough, just get on with it. Very well then. To get straight to the point, Lord Frega's will was magically sealed when it was given to me. He asked me, his executor, not to submit it to the courts for probate until after his death. Suspicious. Although I imagine none of us expected such a time to come so suddenly. Anyways, Lord Frega's assets included sole ownership of several banking houses throughout Wyverngard, 10 million gold and various investments. 10 million? 10 million gold. You can't even begin to imagine what anyone could do with even a fraction of that wealth. And lastly, sole control and ownership of the Frega noble house. The executor takes out a large envelope and uses a rune stone to dispel the magical seal on it. I, William Frega, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. I hereby give, devise, and bequeath all my assets and property, both real and personal, to Jaden von Sanctus. Nice. Provided that he enters into a legal and binding engagement with my daughter, Lifa Frega, within 6 months of the date of my death. Oh. What? That's... Oh. William must have added that addendum to prevent von Sanctus from trying to steal his empire. But a legal and binding engagement is predicated on Lifa accepting it. She clearly doesn't want to go through with it. So if she simply waited 6 months, von Sanctus wouldn't have any claim to the estate. In the event that Jaden von Sanctus does not enter into such an engagement within the specified time frame, my assets and property shall be distributed as such. All of House Frega will be divided equally among my children, as per the laws of our kingdom. Huh. You wanted all of it? You were right, William Frega never disinherited Beatrice. Oh, wait, right. Because he said all of my children. This would make Miriam's testimony false, and since Beatrice would receive a portion of William's inheritance, she had a motive to commit the murder. Glance at Miriam. It's hard to read her expression, but something appears to be on her mind. Without a word, she walks out of the room, ignoring both Beatrice and Lifa. Lifa, on the other hand, seems to be in good spirits. Well, she gets to be with her sisters again. You get to all be one family. Isn't this great, Beatrice? You can lead House Frega now, just as it should have been. Actually, about that, in light of recent events, I believe I should clarify one thing. As per the Slayer rule, if Beatrice Frega is found guilty in the current court case, her inheritance will be revoked and divided between you and your sister. So, I see. I shouldn't feel so happy for myself? That can't be all, can it? Surely William added a note of Lifa's obligation to marry my son. I'm not sure what you're trying to imply. Lifa Frega is an adult with legal autonomy. She is free to make whatever decision she wishes about who she legally marries. Now, if you'll excuse me... Wait, we're not finished yet. Come back here. I'd love to catch up with you, Lifa, but I was only allowed out of my cell to attend the reading. Notice an Inquisition Knight outside the door. He seems to be watching Beatrice intently. But don't worry, I'm sure once this misunderstanding is resolved, we can talk all we want about our family's future. Of course! Group of knights lead Beatrice. Wait. It should be leads. I didn't read it wrong, they wrote it wrong. A group of knights leads Beatrice out of the manor, and Lifa follows after them, leaving you and Celeste alone with Ms. Timora. About what I did. Look, I'm not angry, Cuthbert. I was it was an extremely unforeseen situation, and Steele would clearly put you on the spot. You felt pressured to do something and you made a rash decision. But I'm sure the court will understand if you withdraw. Wait, what? Cuthbert, you're not a prosecutor. You know that, right? Didn't you become an attorney to defend prosecuted mages? But Beatrice is guilty. I saw it. Not going to argue about this again. You were going to withdraw. This is not up for discussion. You've always regarded and respected Miss Timora, and you suppose that's always made you deeply scared of disappointing her. Perhaps she's right. She knows more about what's going on than you do. And she's still your mentor. You want to believe that. You really do. But deep down, you know that this is wrong. Miss Timora may believe in Beatrice's innocence, but you can't just abandon this case and let her escape justice. Your hands are trembling. Why are you so scared right now? You know what you have to say, but the words won't leave your mouth. From behind you, you feel Celeste hold your trembling hand. Aww. It's warm and comforting. It's that same sensation you felt back then. Somehow you can feel it through her hand, as if she's silently telling you that you know what you have to do. Your anxiety fades as you take a deep breath. I'm not going to do that, Miss Timora. What? You said it yourself. Our court system needs a defense attorney and a prosecutor of equal power to keep things fair. Did she say that? Oh yeah, she said it in chapter 1 when she was trying to get the case thrown out. So they didn't have a prosecutor or whatever. She said that when Arya fainted. I'm not going to withdraw. If you believe in Beatrice's innocence, and if you truly believe you're on the right side, then prove it by beating me. Fine, do what you want, but you're only going to make things harder for everyone. Tyrion? As soon as Miss Timora steps out of the room, your body drops to the floor. Oh boy. Eye taker got me. Whatever bravery you felt before got replaced with an extreme amount of fatigue. Scaled Lord, that's the first time I've ever spoken to her like that. But you still did it. You stood your ground. Figuratively, I mean. Right now you're just kind of sitting on the floor. Yeah, I need to take a moment. Can we go back to the ballroom? You return to the ballroom and take a moment to recover. You spot Commander White at the edge of the room, but you don't pay him much notice. It takes you a while before you feel ready to stand. You okay? Yeah, I just needed a moment. Anyways, the will reading bought us a few more hours of it to investigate the murder. To take advantage of the new information we just learned. So, where should we start first? Oh, that's right. He works for me now. Right. You're the prosecutor now, so that would technically make you his boss for the time being. That's cute. This is weird, right? Yup. Awkwardness aside, I never really led a task force before. What would Steelwind normally do in this situation? Well, she'd normally have us investigate areas of interest. Right. The context of the investigation tends to change after each round of court proceedings. Well, we're lacking a lot of physical evidence. Did you and the Inquisition search the gallery and Beatrice's room? Perhaps you can find evidence of how the Sword of Spell Eating was stolen. Whatever you say, boss. That covers the Inquisition, but what are we gonna do? It's clear that Lord Frega's inheritance plays a large role in this case. Even if it's not valid, we should take a look at the modified will that he was drafting. It might give us some insight about what he was really planning to do with his inheritance. It's so interesting because, like, now I'm prosecuting Beatrice, so, like, Beatrice did it. But also, Leafa is super sus. Like, if he was going in to change his will... No, wait. She's not. Never mind. Leafa was sus when we thought he was writing Miriam back into his will. Like, the obvious answer is that that Beatrice and Ruby Timora were the accomplices. Whew. Unless maybe Leafa had it wrong? Maybe Leafa thought Beatrice had been written out. Like, maybe she just was wrong. She thought Beatrice had been written out and that the dad was writing her back in, and that's why she killed him. I just can't wrap my head around it. Beatrice murdered her own father? For what? Wealth and power? That's just how the aristocracy works. Even the weakest noble has a large amount of political power. Sometimes I feel lucky that I grew up in Cornhaven. I'm lucky that you grew up in Cornhaven. Where should we go next? William retreated into his study to draft a new will. Even if it's not valid, we should try to look for it there. Might give us some insight into the headspace he was in that night. I'm glad we found Crimson Lotus. Come on, where is it? As you enter William Frega's study... Wasn't she supposed to go back to jail? Spot a figure rummaging through the drawers in his desk. Oh, Miriam, never mind. Dang it, I keep saying the wrong names. I meant Beatrice and Ruby are in cahoots and work together to murder him. I mean, I definitely see Ruby Timora's motivation to take down the aristocracy. Where else would he put it? Miriam? What? As soon as she notices you, Miriam quickly closes the drawers and walks towards you. Urgh. Blink. You already saw what she was doing. She was definitely looking for something. This is a crime scene. What are you doing here, Miriam? As if that's any of your business. Considering that I'm the prosecutor, it's very much my business. You give a side glance to the night station outside the room. They should have stopped her from entering, but perhaps she used her status to intimidate them into letting her through. However, this could be a blessing in disguise. She was clearly looking for something in this room, and you have a feeling you know what it is. What were you looking for? It could be so important that you disturb an active crime scene. What's up, Trick the TM? Hope you're doing well today. Not much. Cool. It's none of your concern. I'm merely trying to find something that belongs to me. Really? Because I have a feeling that we might be looking for the same thing. Had some annoyance this morning, but better now. Yay! You're looking for the will that your father was drafting, aren't you? That's... Were you trying to destroy it before we could get to it? What's up, Technomagus? You're on case 5 now? Trial for this case is a wild ride. So, my prediction... So, the second trial scene was pretty short. I guess it's really the second half of the first scene. Ah, dang. I'm glad I can talk to you about it now, Technomagus, since you finished this one. So, my theory was that I would actually play both sides. See, I thought that I would be playing Tyrion and Ruby at the same time, because it's a reference to Tyrion playing chess against himself. Like, that would have been like Omega Brain 11 out of 10 best idea ever for the game. You actually play chess against yourself. But I mean, yeah, obviously Beatrice and Ruby murdered him to take down the aristocracy, right? Like, just, you know, my character needs to figure it out. No, of course not. I just needed to see it for myself. Did she really do this? I had a theory also before the will reading. The opening for the trial is wonderfully silly. Yeah. You gotta love Arya Steelman's spunk too, going on the stand even though she's like dying. She like Teddy Roosevelt at the the trial. So my theory before the will reading was that Beatrice had been written out 5 years ago, and that the dad was writing her back in, so that Lifa killed the dad before he could write her back into the will. But obviously that's not the case, but it still could be the case that that's what Lifa thought was happening. Even though obviously, like, Ruby's the accomplice. This morning, the hotels for the con I go to went on sale for the next one. They implemented a new system, and it was a cluster fluff. Interesting. Always book your hotel room before you buy your ticket. That's what I learned from GDQ. Anyway. Though, I think the days of GDQ hotels being sold out on day one might be over. Tickets are not on sale till the new... Oh! So they actually open them at separate times. I guess that's pretty smart. GDQ used to open them at the same time. But that was... What year does this shirt say? 2018. She also suspicious of Beatrice? Why are you so determined to see the drafted will, Miss Frege? I just wanted to see what my father's final wishes were. But your father already had a will filed previously. Wouldn't that be enough? Scared. He mishandled things. Ugh. You said you got it all sorted out, right? You also suspect something, don't you? Of course not! Beatrice would never do something like this. It wasn't the day after the con like in 22. Miss Frege, I never even mentioned Beatrice. Oh! I know how things may look, but please understand, I'm just trying to get to the truth. I don't think your sister did this. I do. But she may have been involved. Well, I think she hired... See, Beatrice is the wayward sister who specialized in illusion magic. And we did find illusion magic. Again, not definitive because any mage can use magic from any school, but... Oh, Technomagus! I don't know how much you know about Dungeons & Dragons, or specifically, I think actually 3.5 is what the school... I actually tried to find a 5th edition resource to see if it has schools of magic, and I didn't feel like digging out my PHP, but in 3.5 there are 8 schools of magic, and so far we've explicitly called out 7 of them, and Tyrion even made a reference to the quote 7 schools of magic, and it's really fascinating because they left out enchantment, which seems to be maybe like Eye Taker and Eris's like specialization. Even though Eris is listed as an illusionist. You're not super familiar with D&D? Okay. So basically in 3.5 there are 8 schools of magic, which this game is drawing from. But in the game they only think there are 7 schools of magic. And the one that they don't know about is enchantment, which is like basically like the mind control type of magic. So that's gonna tie in, I think, that they're gonna be like, oh, there's an 8th school of magic, enchantment. That's my theory, based on my D&D knowledge. I still love the fact that the map you get in the first trial looks like it was ripped straight out of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it even says 1 square equals 5 feet. I'm sad that they didn't do that in episodes 2, 3, and 4. There wasn't really occasion to have a detailed map like that. Like in episode 1, they only have the map so you can dispute the spell range. I wish I had kind of done more of that though, just because the tie-in to D&D was so good. Anyway. Unlike Lifa, she didn't immediately deny it. This means that she already had her own suspicions. Yeah, sure. Where will it? I need to see it. I don't know. I haven't been able to find it. You recall that she was frantically searching William's desk earlier. She's probably telling the truth. It should have been here, but I can't find it. He locked the door when he began drafting it. In addition to that, the Inquisition closed the area off after the body was discovered. The mice took it through the vents. I think the Case 1 map was so detailed because Arya made it herself and is a perfectionist. Yeah, Arya is great. I think that's a good... No, she made the maps of the mansion, actually. Like, she made, in this case. Well, then you get the other maps were made by the Kingsguard. Maybe she actually just had extra copies. I thought it said that she made these maps. Maybe not. Maybe she just had a bunch of copies. William's modified will. Unlike the murder of William Fury, study modified as we died before spoke be submitted, so it's not valid. The draft supposedly stolen during a lockdown. It's likely that the murderer took and or destroyed it. From a meta perspective, I'm willing to say that the developers thought it was a cool idea, but didn't want to spend too much time trying to incorporate D&D style maps into every case. But yeah, I made the joke yesterday that Arya Steelwind is an awesome dungeon master because she prints out extra maps for all the players. It's probably stolen by whoever murdered him, right? Yeah, that would make the most sense. Wait, this makes perfect sense, actually. He was about to write Beatrice out of the will. And that's why Beatrice killed him. I mean, like, it's so straightforward, I don't need to overthink it, right? But how did the pen nib get broken? Or the handle of the letter opener? Which means that whoever did this wanted to nullify whatever was written on it. It's looking more and more like the motive behind this was William's inheritance. Anyways, it looks like we won't be able to find the will. But the fact that it was taken must imply something. For now, we should follow our other leads. There's also the question of who committed the murder and how. Don't we already know the how? The murderer stole the sword of spell eating and used it to break into the study. That's true, but think about how they would have needed to move around the manor. Murder took place on the first floor within William Frega's study. The gallery was on the second floor. They would have needed to go upstairs, steal the sword from the gallery, and then use it to nullify the lock on the study. They dropped in through the bathroom. Not only that, they would have needed to go back upstairs and plant the sword in Beatrice's room. So that's actually fascinating, because it makes more sense, possibly, that they took the sword and immediately planted it into Beatrice's bedroom as a red herring. What? It's getting crazy. About that, if someone conspired with Beatrice to do this, why would they plant the sword in her room? That's a good point. Perhaps they had a falling out and her partner might have tried to betray her by pinning the blame on her. But if that were true, why wouldn't she just sell them out and make a deal with Steelwind? Yeah, Steelwind's totally corruptible. It would be because of the Slayer rule. Slayer rule? I remember the guy at the will reading also mentioned that. What is it? I think it's pretty obvious to figure out. If you kill your dad, you don't get his money. It's a law passed by the Crown centuries ago. According to that law, if someone is involved in another person's death, even accidentally... Oh. That's an interesting tidbit. Even accidentally, they will not be allowed to inherit the deceased's property. So even if Beatrice wasn't directly responsible, she'd lose her cut of the inheritance if she took a plea deal. More importantly, it doesn't sound like Miriam completely believes in Beatrice's innocence either. If that's true, what else can she tell you? Miriam, it almost sounds like you suspect Beatrice as well. That's... Am I incorrect? I don't know what to think anymore. Why else would she threaten me? Miriam, Beatrice threatened you in some way? Dude, stop being so overt. What? Of course not. Your testimony yesterday was quite convenient for the defense. It almost got the whole case thrown out. And Leafa didn't seem to understand what was going on either. But the way she gave her testimony yesterday, it was almost like she was covering for you. Does he seriously not know? Please, promise me that you won't tell anyone about this. I'm not gonna promise that. I won't tell anyone. Okay, never mind. I am gonna promise that. About an hour after the murder, I was approached by Ruby Timora. She gave me a list of statements to give in my testimony. Statements weren't true, but she assured me that my status would protect me from any scrutiny. Didn't you already commit perjury in the other episode? She had information that I had tried to keep secret, and she threatened to make it public unless I cooperated with it. Ruby blackmailed her? I prefer extortion. The X makes it sound cool. No, she would never do that. I'm telling the truth. But please, you can't tell Timora that I told you. She'll ruin me. The eye shows that her fear is genuine. She's not lying. Seen that woman do all kinds of shady stuff in the cases I've worked. Forgery, bribery, extortion, you name it. I'll bet you're just the same. Successor for the devil of defense attorneys. The rumors, they can't be true. You refuse to believe it. Hey, Tyrion, are you okay? Now's not the time to doubt yourself. There's too much at stake right now, and you have a job to do. You should check on Commander White. He might have found something. Okay. Just don't push yourself, okay? Oh, Technomagus, I also wanted to ask you, did you get the psychological profile filled out for Leafa? Because I, couldn't figure out how to do it, and I felt like it was going to be too dumb for me to try to get it. Because, the actual argument would have been easier than figuring out how to fill out the psychological profile. My only guess is that another dialogue option for her opened up at some point, and then that option got erased when the argument option came up. Maybe I was supposed to go to Jan first, and talking to Jan opens up another dialogue option with Leafa that adds to the psychology profile. The profile is built entirely on evidence. It's all. See, I presented everything that I had in my inventory, and I didn't finish it. Though I'm pretty sure that in the case with Leafa, dialogue options actually filled out her psychological profile. Yeah, I went through every clue that I had, both of the spells and every person that I had, and I didn't fill it out, and I was just like, that's it. The only other thing, maybe I accidentally missed one when I was going through the menu. I probably presented my attorney's badge by accident on the one I was supposed to present to her. But yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. I could have sworn that her profile got filled out from some of the dialogues, though. Anyway, I'm gonna go back and watch it. I think I got the final piece by presenting Beatrice to her. I thought I presented, I presented all three of Beatrices to her. I'm pretty sure. I think I did get one from presenting Beatrice. I don't know. Yeah, I'll have plenty of time to think about this later. Can we dance again? Yeah. Let's dance. I'm no longer working for Aster. That's actually kind of funny they didn't update that text. Oh, maybe I am. Maybe he actually knew Beatrice was guilty and he knew all this would happen. He's more clever than he lets on, except when it comes to understanding Arya's feelings for him. I like this song a lot. You're gonna sing or see if you can think. Oh shoot, It's my father-in-law, Odin. He's calmly reading some sort of book. We can feel a menacing aura emanating from him. Scared. This aura. You must be daft if you think I wouldn't notice your presence. What? Did he notice you? You barely entered the room. Before you have a chance to respond, the man pulls out his great axe and rushes towards you. Wait, You bring up your arms to block his blow, but in hindsight, that probably won't do much against an axe that large. Protagus! You open your eyes. Celeste is now standing between you and the axe-wielding maniac. Swing. You're not sure what happened, but it looks like she knocked him several feet backwards. So this is Lucio, right? Oh, it's you two. What the hell was that? You could have killed him. He shouldn't have snuck up on me like that. I almost cleaved him in two. Tyrion didn't do anything wrong. Who the hell do you think you are? I am Lord Lucio Steelwind, Grand General of the Wyvern Military Forces. Heck yeah, dude. So this is Prosecutor Steelwind's father. They do share the same intimidating stare. Although, he's not the most menacing person in the room right now. Oh. Celeste, it's fine. I'm not hurt. She looks more than irate right now, but she begrudgingly sheathes her sword. Anyways, Lord Steelwind was one of the people with a motive to murder William Frege. Right, because murdering him would enter the kingdom into a military state, which would benefit him. Ooh. And as a fellow head of a pillar house, he might have some information about William and his affairs. Wait. There's an elf girl in this game. Why does this guy look like half of his head is missing? And what is this cat person? And why does the bar matron have a broken horn? And who's this guy? And why is Vega in here? And what disappeared that guy?
Repario Arcanum.
I'm scared of this guy. I'm gonna go somewhere else. See if any magic was used in any of these other rooms.
Repario Arcanum.
Let's see anything there.
Repario Arcanum.
Okay.
Repario Arcanum. 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 Repario Arcanum.
If looks could kill. McCoy, one might disinterpret that look of yours as murderous intent. Aw, guess you do have some battle instincts after all. I honestly wasn't sure, since you obviously have a silver spoon stuck up your Celeste. Such lack of respect and discipline. If you were one of my soldiers, I'd have you hanged. If I was one of your soldiers, I'd hang myself! Yo! Oh, man. Too good. You love Celeste? I love her too. Her only downfall is that she's not Arya Steelwind. Alright. She has some wonderful one-liners. Okay, let's all try to be civil here. Lord Steelman, you were at the Lord's ball when the murder occurred, am I correct? I was. Do you mind if I ask you some questions about what you saw that night? If that's okay with you. I suppose I must oblige, considering that my daughter has so unceremoniously thrust her responsibilities on you. Thanks. Thanks, future father-in-law. I'm sorry about what happened to your daughter. I'm sure that you're very worried. It's her own fault for exerting herself despite her injuries. Even the bravest warrior knows when to stay off the battlefield. How could you say that? Your daughter was trying to do the right thing. He's being a little callous about it, but that doesn't mean he's wrong. By prosecuting the heiress of House Frege, she had very little evidence to substantiate a conviction. If she wanted to strike a blow on a rival house, she should have been certain that her enemy would fall. But now, if Beatrice Frege is found innocent, any hopes of an alliance between House Frege and House Steelman will be completely annulled. You don't need that. She's engaged to the prince, okay? You're fine. It's clear that he and the prosecutor have vastly different priorities. Where were you throughout the night, Lord Steelman? I so loathe gatherings like that. They're a complete waste of time. I was in this room, but then I received word that Lord Frege's lost heiress had made an unexpected appearance. She was supposedly speaking with the crown prince, so I made my way to the ballroom. Oh yeah, dude, daddy stick up for his little girl. Aw, that's so cute. Oh, I love that. Did you speak with them at any point? No, I kept my distance and stayed near the Kingsguard. I needed to make sure she wouldn't try anything. Was this because you were wary of Beatrice Frege? Yes, I was. The Crown Prince has always been a bleeding heart, and the Freges are trained to sharpen their tongue from birth. I needed to make sure that she wouldn't try to interfere with his engagement. You were worried that she was going to try to take Aster back? I was. But it was clear that wasn't her intention. But you did overhear their conversation? What were they talking about? Their conversation was completely innate. It was all just small talk. Or code. Lady Frege spent most of her time playing with Prince Alaric. That's cute. Right, Aster's younger brother was there too. Define bleeding heart. A person considered to be dangerously soft-hearted. Aww. Especially someone with liberal beliefs, which also fits Aster. Okay. You know that Beatrice had some role in the murder, even if she wasn't directly responsible. Did she have some unknown goal by speaking with Aster and his brother? You went to the ballroom when you heard that Beatrice had returned. Was this before or after the lockdown? It was before the lockdown. That sounds about right. This means that she was accounted for before the theft was reported. And did you see her leave at any point? No. She spoke with the two princes for quite a while. She didn't leave their side until she was arrested for Lord Frege's murder. Huh. What do you know about that? Maybe she can make potions. What? That means she was accounted for the entire night? She somehow made, I'm guessing Ruby, invisible or like transmuted her into a rat or something? But if she was accounted for the whole time, then yeah, maybe she can make potions. I don't know. Beatrice Frege was seen speaking with Aster de Wyverngaard and Alaric de Wyverngaard during the Lord's Ball. She spent the entire night speaking with them. She was also accounted for before the Sword of Spell Eating was reported missing. Lucio Steele and Aster and several members of the Kingsguard can confirm this. But her thoughts said that she was an accomplice in William's death, which means she didn't have to be there in person. Come on, catch up. Was she there to distract the Kingsguard? Huh. Like, did she steal the sword so that they could sneak into the office? Anyway. Thank you for answering our questions, Lord Steelman. I'm merely repaying my daughter's debt to you. He was surprisingly pretty cooperative, but that doesn't lift any suspicion off of him just yet. You'll need to find more evidence if you want to know for sure. Anyways, you should probably move somewhere else. Let's go, Celeste. McCoy. What? Your spellcasting is undisciplined, but your battle stance and reflexes are commendable. You have my respect as a warrior. As if that means anything coming from you. If I were your soldier, I would have hung myself. That's probably the best single line in the game so far. Like, there have been good dialogues and threads, but as far as single, like, zinger goes, I think that has to take the cake. What an undisciplined and defiant brat. Yeah, why can't he be a disciplined brat like your daughter? You like her? I fear you don't approve of Arya becoming a prosecutor. Of course I don't. A member of House Steelwind shouldn't debase themselves by doing the work of a civil servant. But she clearly has her own motivations for doing so. Is that how you see it? She's merely following the misguided path of the Crown Prince. So he thinks actually that Aster got to her. They do have similar ideals, it seems. Regret letting those two meet. Yeah, but have you forgotten? He has like the same motif as she does. Tell the House Steelwind controls Wyverngar's military. We don't control the military. We are the military. We control the very foundation that maintains order in our kingdom. Those fools in the palace have no idea what it takes to lead a nation. These recent common folk uprisings are evidence of that. Beatrice Frege is a remarkable mage. It's truly a shame that this is how it turned out. I'm surprised to hear you say that. I assume most of the nobility hated her. If you're correct, then most of the nobility are imbeciles. At the age of 13, she surpassed her father's magical talents. If she had been allowed to develop, she could have revolutionized the study of conjuration magic. She would have been a great asset to our kingdom. Ever the pragmatic one, isn't he? Completely inane. Oh wait, we always gotta present Mom. I didn't expect someone of your status to recognize me. I know of you, and the infamous Ruby Timora. Right. I also know that my daughter has failed to defeat you once. I await the day when she tears you down from your throne. Okay. Doesn't he disapprove of her becoming a prosecutor? He almost sounds like an encouraging parent. Aww. Oh, maybe he'd comment if she made it. He should know about, like, the weapons and stuff. Ms. McCoy, that sword of yours is of Eastern make, isn't it? Maybe. I do wonder how someone of your status earned the favor of an Ixian regent. Wait, what? I'll tell you that story later. Please? Trying to think of a thing that, like, specifically talked about his motive, but William Frege, a fool to the very end. From what I've heard, you two weren't on the best of terms. That moron believed that every problem in our kingdom could be solved with gold. He failed to see the dangers posed to our kingdom. What this kingdom needs is a sharp weapon and iron fists to wield it. Okay. Ms. McCoy, the Crimson Demon. How do people keep learning about that name? Please, House Steelman secures the borders of Wyverngard. Don't think I'm unaware of your illegal travels to the Eastern Kingdoms. Yeah, you want to arrest me? Let's see how that goes. Can you stop antagonizing him? Alright, let's end on that. Yo, let's go Orem Way. Oh. Is it a... Did you catch a mouse? Whoa. Keep it in that corner. Don't let it get away. Get away from him! As you enter Beatrice's room, you see the Inquisition cornering something near the back of the room. The dog! It's some sort of animal. A wolf, to be exact. Wait. Is that? It's the wolf from the hallway. You recall spotting the same wolf on the night of the Lord's Ball. Has it been in the house since the murder? Woof! Intruders, I must protect Queen. What, must protect Queen? Oh, he's Tracker. I'm dumb. Okay. What? Did you just read his thoughts? Protect territory from enemies. Doge. Tracker. Track Moonpearl. He must see the Inquisition as intruders in his territory. Did I say truders? But does that mean he sees his room as his home? You slowly start to walk towards him. This is Miriam's room, right? Wait, Tyrion? Stay back, kid. It's a wild animal. There's no telling what it'll do. Interesting. Red rum. Oh, is Tracker the accomplice? That's it. All right, Tracker is Beatrice's familiar, and that's how she was able to cast spells at a distance. Right? So she had to possibly cast the glass shattering spell or a null magic field to break the sword. Well, she didn't. I think she was actually there. No, she wasn't. She was in the. Oh, dude! That's how she does stuff when she's blind, because she can see through the dog. Oh man, how did I not think of that before? Oh, dude. But she also could cast illusion spells on Ruby from a distance. Oh man, she's toast. She's going down. You ignore the and continue to approach him. I like this dog. What's that necklace he's wearing? Potion of invisibility. Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you. This human, he can speak language of dog. Wait, you can understand me? Why are you talking to it? Oh, what a good boy. You're speaking plain dog. Of course, Tracker understand. What's going on here? Is the Eye of Horus allowing you to speak with him? You've never really tried it before, but perhaps your powers aren't limited to humans. Anyways, this could be a good opportunity. Call the parrot to the stand. You wonder what else he knows. What can you tell me about this, Tracker? Tracker don't. It looks like he got distracted by a squirrel. Tracker, is that your name? How did you... I heard you calling out for him multiple times, girl. Yeah, Tracker. Tracker is Tracker. That's the name Queen gave to me. Aww. Occupation dog. I like how the monkey's occupation is monkey. Tracker gestures to Leafa when he mentions his queen. Oh. That's interesting. Huh. That still doesn't rule out him being Beatrice's familiar. It would be such a cool, like, circumvent the blindness thing if he were Beatrice. He called you his... Are you... You can't just tell her you're talking to the dog. Do you know him, Leafa? Yes. But how? How are you talking to it? That's... You were so caught up in speaking to Tracker, you didn't realize how strange the scene must look to everyone else. I'm a dog whisperer. You've never mentioned it before. Do you honestly expect us to believe something like that? But Tracker says he can understand him. He told me himself. Alright then, that rules out the theory that he's Beatrice's familiar, I think. Wait, how do you know that? So, Leafa, how are you able to communicate with Tracker? I suppose there's no sense in hiding it anymore. Tracker is my familiar. She does look more like a ranger, so she would have a wolf familiar. Wait, rangers don't have familiars. Anyway. Familiar, so it's the same magical bond Harold has with his monkey. No, the rat! The rat is Beatrice's familiar. Okay, it's still fine. We're still on track. We're still on Tracker. What was the deal with the handle of this letter opener? Did the rat, like, chew it up? Handle's completely shattered? Unless, was he already holding the dagger when she cast Shatter on the display case glass? That's the only explanation I can come up with for the shattered letter opener handle. It's pretty funny. You guys can cast spells from the location of the target creature instead of their own location. Interesting. Okay. You recall that the familial bond spell allows Cassie to telepathically speak with their familiar. That must be how she's speaking to him. You never mentioned him during questioning. It wasn't relevant to the investigation. And I've been keeping him a secret from my family. Keeping a wolf as a secret? Or just the familiarness? I suppose that makes sense. Maybe he lives outside. I doubt William Frege would allow you to keep an animal on its own. Well, I don't appreciate you keeping this info from us, but it doesn't look like anyone got hurt. Aside from this dog, we haven't really found anything new. Damn it, they didn't find any more physical evidence of the theft? Did the dog just steal swords? Because dogs like stealing swords? Ooh, a stick! Looks like you're running another dead end. Unless... Oh, man. Tracker. I saw you on the night of the murder. What? Tracker! Uh-oh. He's supposed to say that. That face is so good. I'm gonna do this again to see the face. Wait, is that why you won't allow the servants to enter it? Ah. I didn't want to keep him in Beatrice's room, but he was very insistent that he stay here. Tracker likes the ambience. Right. Wait. If you live in this room, did you see who brought the sword of spell eating here? I already asked him about that, but he didn't see anyone. He must have been taking a nap. Either that or he was roaming outside, even though I told him to stay here. I'm pretty sure that this is, like, supposed to look like the concerned Doge. Yeah. It's close enough that I'll give it. It's close enough that I'll say they were referencing it. Rat's face. Damn it! Tracker see a lot of other things, though. Tracker see many new people that night. Right, he was roaming the manor during the Lord's Ball. He must have seen a lot of new people. Wait, if he was walking around, he might have seen something that the Inquisition doesn't know about. Tracker, don't. Oh wait, I meant this sword. My queen is good friend. Save Tracker when Tracker was pup. Is that how you ended up becoming our pet? Yeah. I always hear about other animals joining humans, but Tracker didn't understand it till he met Queen. Now I give Queen protection, and Queen give me honey bacon. I want some honey bacon. That sounds so good. Can you tell us what you saw the night of the murder, Tracker? Tracker see rats. Okay. This may be more difficult than you thought. I need you to be more specific. Can you go in order? Tell me about everyone that you saw that night. Okay. Tracker was taking a nap in a room, but Tracker woke up from loud sounds outside. Tracker hears small things running in the walls. Running in the walls? Tracker called Queen, but she didn't answer, so Tracker decided to check sound alone. Tracker followed sound outside. That's when Tracker smelled the bad smell. Bad smell? That's when Tracker smelled flying rat. You smelled a flying rat? You mean like a pigeon? Tracker could smell where Rat was, so Tracker barked at him. Tracker must have scared Rat because he fell onto the floor and dropped his stick. The rat had a stick? Is it the letter opener? Or the other thing? Or the sword? Tracker could see them now, so Tracker did one final bark to scare them off. The rats were scared and went back into the walls. It went into the walls? That's when Tracker picked up the stick Rat dropped. Queen finally answered Tracker. She told him to go back to his room and hide. After message, Tracker brings stick back to room for inspection. Oh man. Wait, would an anti-magic field nullify the familial bond? Do you remember what time this encounter happened? What is time? Aww. Right, an animal wouldn't really have a concept of that. What did he say, Tyrion? Did he say anything? Or see anything? Well, he definitely saw something. Okay, let's try to take a moment to work through this. Tracker is an animal, and despite being able to speak with him, his use of words is very primitive, so you should carefully examine each of his statements. The first thing he heard was a small things running through in the walls. The Tracker heard when he woke up. I almost wanted to put this part in dog speak. I'll let someone else observe something similar that night. Tracker heard rats running in the vents. The servants were complaining about rats running through the air vents, so they sent me to take care of it. I heard one of them run in the vents upstairs, and I followed it here. I figured I had nowhere else to go, so I opened it up and put a trap down. Must have heard the rats that Chan mentioned. They weren't actually running in the walls, they were running in the vents. The next thing he did was call the Queen, but she didn't answer. Why didn't Leafa answer Tracker's message? Well, she was talking to her dad. Must have called out to her telepathically. Oh, Tracker was nullified by anti-magic field. Or Leafa was distracted. That's interesting. I didn't jump to this conclusion, but I'll buy it. Leafa didn't respond because she never got Tracker's message. Telepathic capabilities granted by familial bond were disabled by anti-magic field. Okay. That's actually a good confirmation. Which means that this encounter happened during the lockdown. So that covers his first two statements, but you're not really sure what to make of the flying rat he saw. Tracker, why do you refer to the rats as flying? Because rats don't usually jump and fly. Yes, I got that. Is it possible that what you saw wasn't really a rat? Rats are rats. They're small things that run and hide. So rat is a general term for him. Use it to refer to small animals that are acting suspiciously. Anyways, with everything you know now, Last statement doesn't make sense. Why did Tracker finally hear Leafa? Because the sword got into the room and nullified the anti-magic field. So that the queen finally answered him, and this happened after he picked up the stick. That shouldn't have been possible due to the anti-magic field. The stick that Tracker obtained is actually the sort of spell. Tracker, about that stick you found, where did you put it after you came back to this room? Tracker hides stick in safe space, under the bed. And this stick, did it look like the sword that my friend is carrying? What? Hey, your friend stole my other stick. Wait, your other stick? Yeah, Tracker found it while he was hiding from the metal men. Metal men? Is he referring to the Kingsguard? He must have left the bedroom when they were searching for the sword of spell eating. Wait, are you the one who stole Celeste's sword? Tracker? Did Tracker do it bad? That's I suspected. Tracker was the one that brought the sword of spell eating here. What? I have no idea how or why, but the sword of spell eating was lying in a hallway somewhere. Tracker found it and brought it back to Beatrice's room. His room? That can't be. So this person who framed Beatrice for the theft was... If it weren't for Tracker, the Inquisition would have never honed in on Beatrice at all. But why would this sort of spell eating be lying in a random hallway? Leafa, do you mind if I borrow Tracker for a little bit? We're gonna call him to the witness stand, aren't we? This is gonna... Can we... I don't know if I want this or not. It's okay, Queen. He smelled good. Tracker, trust him. Thanks, I guess. Okay, but only if you allow me to accompany you. Ugh. You know about Miriam's position, but how does Leafa feel about you prosecuting Beatrice? Miriam's position. It's possible she might try to sabotage the investigation if you let her accompany you. What is time? Is it tasty? Right. You don't really have a choice. You nod to Leafa, but you also send a subtle gesture to Celeste to keep an eye on her. She silently nods and slowly follows behind her. Alright, Tracker. Can you take us to the hallway where you found these rats? Sure thing, King. Oh, is he shipping me with Leafa? It looks like you've received a promotion. You allow Tracker to lead you to the location. The vent's open, where he found the sword of spell eating. Surprisingly, it's fairly close to Beatrice's room. He apparently didn't travel very far before he met those rats he mentioned. Alright, so Rat is Beatrice's familiar. Takes the sword and was on her way to the vent and Doge stopped her? Did she even need the sword to get in, or she can go through the vents? I would think probably. As you continue towards your destination, Tracker suddenly becomes extremely tense. Tracker, what's wrong? Enemy. Ah, the dog always knows. Oh? Before you even have a chance to react, Tracker steps between you and Eris and begins angrily barking at her. Oh dear. Tracker, stop that! Leafa tries to calm Tracker down, but he's undeterred. He continues to bark at Eris, and it looks like it's taking all of Leafa's strength to hold him back. I'm terribly sorry. He's not usually like this. It's to be expected. I'm not sure why, but animals... What did you just say? That's not what you said. Oh man, I'm gonna have to check the VOD later. Animals have always disliked me. What is Eris doing here? He recalls seeing her at Beatrice's too. Said that her father is friends with Beatrice, but is she involved in this case somehow? Anyways, we came here for a purpose. You should examine this hallway and see if you can find any clues. What do you think about this, Eris? No. What? I don't seem to have any dialogue for that. I see. That's a strange way to say that she doesn't know anything about it. Alright, in the world where Beatrice is actually the narrator, or I'm sorry, in the world where Eris is actually the narrator, it's really funny that she would say this. That's a strange way to say she doesn't know anything about it. There's an air vent over here. Please go from ceiling to the ground floor. That's where the rat escaped to, Tracker? That's where Jumping Rat went. I thought you said it was a flying rat. Tracker, see that too? Okay, it would probably be better just to move on. Anyways, where did this rat come from? Rat come out the other wall. You mean the vent on the opposite side? Yes, Tracker saw a flying rat escape that way. What was this rat doing here in the first place?
Repario Arcanum.
Interesting. What? What do you see? The vents have traces of illusion magic inside them. What? The traces also go deep inside these vents. It's the same for the vents on the other side too. Why would there be traces of illusion magic inside the vents? What spell could possibly have left those traces? As I told you many months ago, illusion spells tend to do one of two things. They either create freestanding illusions, or they can disguise an existing creature. I doubt someone created a small freestanding illusion in the vent, so a disguised creature must have been inside these vents at some point. Would they, like, leave a trail of magic trace? These vents are tiny. No one would be able to fit inside them. Alright. Tracker could see them now, so Tracker did one final bork to scare them off. The rats were scared and went back into the walls. But a rat would be able to fit into these vents. Well, yeah, I guess that'd be true. But that would mean that the rat had an illusion spell active on it at the time. It's not only that. He said the queen finally answered him. And this happened after he picked up a stick. That shouldn't have been possible because of the anti-magic field. Tracker saw this rat during the lockdown. They would have been inside the anti-magic field created by the lockdown? There can only be one way that rat could have an illusion spell active on it. Wait, you can't mean that rat was holding the sword of spell eating. What? But how is that possible? A rat wouldn't have the strength or hands to carry the sword. Tracker's vocabulary is primitive and limited. He uses the word rat to describe small creatures that hide and act suspiciously. But even if it wasn't an actual rat, it still couldn't have been a human, right? You're right, it would have to be a small animal. A small animal with the strength and dexterity to traverse a small air vent while holding a sword. So now it's a monkey. Monkeys do jump. So there was a jumping rat and a flying rat. The tracker did imply that those were distinct things, jumping rat and flying rat. Eugene. Are you serious? We know that Harold had a motive to kill William Frege. He was planning to defund the Haraldson Hall of History. They had an argument that night, and that's when William Frege decided that he was going to defund Harold's museums. He must have struck a deal with Beatrice. And with Beatrice's portion of House Frege, she could have easily kept his museums funded. He could have faked the robbery and sent his familiar to murder William. I can't believe this. And there's something else the tracker said. This could smell where a rat was. Tracker bork at him. Tracker must have scared rat because he fell into the floor and dropped his stick. The rat had a stick? Tracker, you said you had to smell to see where the rat was? When he dropped his stick, you were finally able to see him. Does that mean you couldn't visually see him before he fell down? Yeah, Tracker couldn't see the rat with his eyes, so Tracker used his nose to see it. The monkey was invisible. No one would have noticed a small invisible animal. In addition to that, he moved through the air vents. Eugene would have been nearly undetectable that night. Beatrice is a master of illusion magic, so it's possible she cast invisibility on Eugene. Oh. So now we think the accomplice was Harold. Oh, Koltari. Well, now I have to replay this episode and see what happens every time she claps. Stupid somatic component. Highest forms of illusion make this spell makes a target creature object completely invisible. Completely transparent and undetectable visually. If targeting a creature, this spell will also affect anything the creature is wearing or holding. And then there's the position of this air vent. We're currently in the hallway just north of Beatrice's room. This air vent connects to the ground floor. We align the two floor maps together. This vent leads into the storage room. Right, the air vent there curved upwards. This must be where it lands. Oh yeah, there's the curve right there. According to John, the air vent led directly to William's study. It would have been the perfect route to enter William's study and leave undetected. But he wouldn't have needed to nullify the locker to enter that room. Why would he need to use this sort of spell eating at all? Because of familial bond, they can telepathically communicate with each other. I will probably need Eugene to hold the sword so we can tell him exactly where to go. The sword's magic affects anyone magically connected to the wielder, and familial bonds connects to them magically. It makes sense now. Harold could have easily faked the robbery to take suspicion off him. It's even possible that he was lying about how the display glass was shattered. But I've known Lord Haraldson for many years. I just can't believe that he'd be involved in this. That's what you said about your sister. She's never read his thoughts. His thoughts were very hostile and rude. Despite his kind expression, he's very good at hiding what he's truly feeling. And Beatrice, there's no way she'd participate in a plan like this. Look, Leafa, I know you don't want to suspect your sister, but it's not that. Beatrice would never trust anyone enough to work together like this. She's completely blind. She wouldn't have much of a choice. Even so, she's not the type of person to trust her accomplice to stay quiet. Unless her accomplice were Ruby Timora. She'd find a way to carry out a plan herself, and she'd only employ someone else's help if she had full control of them. Well, she kind of has control over Harold, doesn't she? Leafa probably knows her better than you do, but you doubt working alone would be possible with her condition, and you can't think of any other way she'd be involved in this. Anyways, if we're finished here, aren't we? Yes, thank you for lending Tracker to us, Leafa. I only wanted to help you find out what really happened. Don't make me regret trusting you, Mr. Cuthbert. If you're truly on the side of justice, then you won't. Good. Well, if you'll excuse me. Poof. So that's it, right? We finally know who really committed the murder then? And if you can get Harold to confess on the stand, he might reveal Beatrice's involvement as well. Just that, might be able to convince her and Miss Timora to take a plea deal. Although, knowing Miss Timora, that would be easier said than done. Anyways, this is definitely the lead that we've been looking for. But is it really enough? We still don't have any physical evidence. It'll have to do for now. We're running out of time. We just have to call Howard to stand justify what he did that night. If I can push him far enough, I might be able to catch him lying. But that'll be easy. He has a good poker face. How much will be able to hide his thoughts? I already gave my statement to the Inquisition. Is my testimony really necessary? Sorry, old-timer. My orders come straight from the prosecutor. We're gonna need you on the stand today. I understand. I'll do what I can to help. Sure you will. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Murmur. Court is now resumed for the trial of Beatrice Frege. Let us resume yesterday's proceedings. There was much debate over William Frege's inheritance. More specifically, it was unknown whether the defendant had any claim to her father's inheritance. This detail was crucial in determining whether the defendant even had a motive to commit the murder. Luckily, the victim's will was supposedly read earlier today, and it is now a part of the public record. What were the results of the will reading, Mr. Cuthbert? William Frege was planning to leave all of his assets to Jaden von Sanctus, his hopeful son-in-law. However, this was predicated on the condition that Jaden marry the victim's daughter, Leafa. And it's clear that Ms. Leafa will never follow through on this engagement. If the engagement is not made in 6 months, William Frege's assets will be divided among his 3 daughters. I see, so there was no mention of the defendant's disinheritance. Correct, Your Honor. This means that the defendant did have something to gain from the victim's death. Yeah, the side switch. You know, it's kind of funny. Like, I was thinking that it looked weird. It actually didn't look that weird for Tyrion to be on the opposite side, but then when they showed Celeste, it was a little off-putting. It's kind of funny. I just did it so no one got tilted. Your Honor, despite the confusion around the victim's inheritance, there is still very little physical evidence that implicates my claim. May I remind you that Miriam Frege was not telling the truth in yesterday's proceedings. That itself is extremely suspect. And William Frege was clearly not above manipulation and lying. You can't prove that she knowingly gave false testimony. I'll admit that I can't prove that. I'll also admit that there's a lack of apparent physical evidence to substantiate our case. See, like, I still suspect Ruby, but wait, the person that had absolute control over her was Eyetaker. It wasn't. Right, I had it backwards. Harold, she would have had control over Harold, but her accomplice needs to be someone that would be able to manipulate her, which would be Eyetaker. Interesting. Yeah, so like, I'm still suspicious of Ruby. I don't know how we pull Ruby and show her as guilty in this scene, but we'll see how it goes. Which is why the prosecution would like to call Harold Haraldson to the stand. Lord Haraldson? The sword of spell eating clearly plays a large role in the murder, and its theft is one of the few pieces of physical evidence in this case. As the gallery's curator, I believe you can further elaborate on how the sword was stolen that night. More specifically, you can find out about what he did on the night of the murder. I see. Well, the court would definitely benefit from his insight. Bailiff, please escort Lord Haraldson to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Of course, my name is Harold Haraldson. I am the owner and curator of the Haraldson Hall of History located in Homereth. That's quite the alliterative occupation. Harold, could you please testify to the court about how you discovered that the sword of spell eating was stolen? If it will help. I was keeping an eye on my gallery's exhibits when I realized that my familiar hadn't returned. I called to him telepathically, but he didn't respond. I became worried, so I went around the manor to search for him. About an hour later, I returned to the gallery and discovered that the exhibit that held the sword of spell eating was completely destroyed. Wait a minute. The intelligence bracelets were also taken. Did the monkey wear the bracelet so that he could be smart enough to swing a weapon? Or maybe smart enough to talk? Or maybe they were after the armbands of intellect the entire time. Was this was the real target? Everything was about these armbands. Huh. The artifact was missing, so we reported the crime to the knights at the ball, and they activated a discreet lockdown. Luckily, I found the sword in my familiar later that night. So you went and searched for the monkey, and that's why you didn't witness the theft? Yes, the thief was probably waiting for me to leave. Why would you have to look for the monkey? Suspicious. They must have wanted to commit the crime without anyone seeing them. Or his testimony is completely full of it. The searcher usually must have been a cover he's using to hide his actions. How do you prove that? Are you referring to Eugene? Eugene? Eugene Harrelson, Your Honor. It's the name of the witness is familiar. Yes, Eugene is a spry orangutan monkey. He helps me with my day-to-day. Oh, I see. Anyways, you said that he hadn't returned. Does this mean he left you earlier in the night? Yes, he always likes to explore large buildings like Frege Manor, but he usually doesn't leave for that long. I called him telepathically, but he didn't respond. Does he typically ignore you like that? Sometimes. He's a young boy, so he likes to have his privacy. Huh. I try not to pry, but I was wary that what would happen if a noble or knight came across him. He usually knows not to bother people, but you never know what might happen. You left the gallery room? Yes. As I said, I was worried that something had happened to Eugene. Where did you go during your search? Eugene usually knows to stay out of people's bedrooms, so I went downstairs and searched for him there. I checked the bathroom, sitting room, and coat room. Then I finally checked the kitchen and pantry. He might have gone there to steal some snacks. But you didn't find him in any of those places. No, I didn't. If I recall correctly, the glass was completely shattered. This is despite the presence of several abjuration spells that protected it. Yes, it would have taken an extremely powerful spell to break it like that. As you saw, the glass display was shattered into shards. Unless Harold had a way to dispel that magic. Powerful mage must have destroyed it. Perhaps Harold and Beatrice shattered the glass before she went to the ballroom. I don't like that I'm, like, really assuming that Harold did it. The Sword of Spell Eating makes its wielder immune to magical effects. What would the lockdown have been? Wait, if he can see through the monkey's eyes, it doesn't really matter whether or not he responds telepathically. Would have been immune to the anti-magic field and the spells that prevent people from leaving. At that point, Kingstar just wanted to activate it for good measure. On the sword and my familiar later than statement just now is missing some details. But what details should you ask him to elaborate on? How did you find the sword? How did you find Eugene? How did you eventually find Eugene that night? After an hour of silence, he finally responded to my telepathic messages. He met up with me at the gallery before we went to search for the sword. It would have been after the theft was reported, yes. But no. I had to pick up Eugene after he murdered Lord Frege. This must be the alibi they're using to account for the time that no one could see Eugene. Anyways, see took a mission to present to your testimony. Witness, Harold. Yes, of course, Harold. He says that he went around the manor to look for Eugene. Do you think he's telling the truth? Maybe, but his so-called search for Eugene gave him a good excuse to not be seen by anybody. It's a decent alibi, if not without its flaws. Eugene finally spent my telling the messages. Met with him in the gallery room before they finally found the artifact. But wasn't the thing still in place?
Objection!
Harold, you found Eugene before you went to search for the Sword of Spell Eating? This would mean that happened while the lockdown was still active, am I correct? Yes. As much as I was worried about the artifact, Eugene's safety was far more important. That's the thing, Harold. You said that after hours of silence, you finally received a telepathic message back from Eugene. What? So that leaves one question. How did you communicate with Eugene telepathically if you were both within an anti-magic field? What? Harold, in response to the theft, the Kingsguard activated the lockdown system to prevent anyone from leaving. That same lockdown system would have placed an anti-magic field over every inch of that manor. That field should have suppressed the telepathic abilities given to you by the familial bond. You wouldn't have been able to speak with Eugene at all. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert, are you accusing the witness of lying in his testimony? Please, Cuthbert is blowing this entire thing out of proportion. Anti-magic field is a resource-intensive spell. We can't assume that they managed to cover every inch of the manor, especially the areas that would only be accessible to a small animal. Samora, let's assume that Eugene managed to reach some sort of blind spot in the lockdown system. Magical telepathy granted by familial bond connects two people. Even if Eugene wasn't affected by anti-magic field, Harold would be. That's very true. So how did I hear him that night? There's only one answer that makes sense, Harold. You did hear Eugene telepathically, because Eugene was wielding the sword of spell eating. What? I'm sorry, Mr. Cuthbert, but are you saying that the sword of spell eating was stolen by the witness's pet monkey? I am, Your Honor. It's the only way the witness's testimony makes sense. Huh. She doesn't have a rebuttal. You should push us while you still have a chance. Harold Haraldson, you were the one who stole the sword of spell eating, weren't you? What reason would I have to steal something that already belongs to me? It was to take suspicion off of you, because you were the one who had William Frege killed. You staged robbery and used the sword of spell eating to make Eugene invisible. Then you sent him through the manor's ventilation system, also you could have him murder William Frege in his study. Bro, you can't just play your entire hand right now. I'll know that it's not true. Huh. Well done, Cuthbert. I suppose you just can't stop yourself from pursuing a lying witness. It's what I do best, Miss Tamora. Of course. Witness, do you have anything to say in your defense? It's quite obvious, but I completely refute the prosecution's allegations. He's misguided, but he's just doing his job. Uh-oh. You're expecting his thoughts to be hostile like before. Then do you also refute your statement about Eugene telepathically speaking with you? I know better than to lie on stand to try to save myself. It's the only one. I can't explain how it happened, but I stand by my testimony. Eugene did telepathically communicate to me during the lockdown. How did he do it? Wait, so he doesn't know how that telepathic communication happened? Cross product is leading chat. Perhaps he overlooked it when he was planning the murder with Beatrice. And that's your position, Cuthbert? That the witness sent a monkey to murder William Frege? This reminds me of an episode of Frasier. Oh man, but I wore the Frasier shirt yesterday. It's an episode where Martin is trying to solve an old case, and Niles and Frasier like come to the conclusion that the monkey did it. So they arrange all these they arrange all the photographs in Martin's file to have like the monkey and then the gun and then the victim to like try to get him to think he figured it out. But then it just it turns out to just be something completely different. It may sound ridiculous, but it's the only thing that makes sense. Or do you have any evidence to refute that, Ms. Tamora? No, I fully and wholeheartedly agree with you, Cuthbert. Wait. Tyrion? Mr. Cuthbert, did you forget that you were prosecuting Beatrice Frege? I kinda did. Your Honor, even as a prosecutor, it's clear that Cuthbert just can't stop himself from finding the true culprit. But wait, I also meant to say that the defendant conspired with the witness to commit the crime. Oh, really? And do you have any proof of this conspiracy to commit? Oh, of course you don't. But even so, let's assume that you did have evidence to prove your statement. If this was really a plot formed by my client and the witness, what would my client even contribute to this plan? Magic? From what you said, this plot was completely carried out by Lord Haraldson and his familiar. Well, the glass. He would have needed a powerful mage like the defendant to break the sword's display case and stage the robbery. So her contribution to the murder was breaking some glass? Can you prove that my client shattered the display case? Can you prove that she did so knowing that it would somehow lead to her father's death? You might have gotten a little too eager to prove Harold's guilt. The physical evidence against my client was almost non-existent in the first place. Meanwhile, it seems the prosecution has just brought forward physical evidence that it implicates Lord Haraldson. Physical evidence that is supported by his own testimony. There has to be some explanation for this. Cuthbert, didn't you ask me something yesterday? If my client didn't kill the victim, then who did? I suppose I should thank you for finding the answer. Damn it, all you did was make it more difficult to prove your case. Harold has to be involved in this. You weren't wrong about that. Is he? Only Eugene would be small enough to traverse the air vents. So isn't there anything else you can use? With the threat of indictment, Harold must be stressed. It's gotten you out of tight spots before. Maybe you can find evidence in this one. Cuthbert, we already used the empowered eye in this episode. This is going so badly, you guys. Oh, man. You can use every trick you have, Cuthbert. It won't help you. Ignore her. Calm your mind and focus the Eye of Horus on him. You have to find something, anything that might tie the murder to Beatrice.
Naught can remain concealed.
This is just watching this guy go down this path that... Eugene, just what were you doing that night? Did you really wield a sword, if only for a brief moment? Wait, he should have known exactly where Eugene was that night. Why would his thoughts say that? The insight's gonna tell me that I have no idea what I'm talking about. I can't believe that one of my artifacts was used to commit a murder. It's completely disrespectful to the culture and history behind it. What? He's speaking as if he truly had no hand in this. That can't be true, can it? He's not the defendant. What do you... It's truly a shame that Beatrice was driven to flee from her own family. If only I'd introduced myself to her. Oh, Tyrion, you are sure up the creek now. Perhaps we could have found a solution together. He doesn't know Beatrice? But how? She planned the murder with him. Unless... What? What's going on? He's speaking as if he really had no hand in this. You can guard yourself from the Eye of Horus. You can't lie to it. If that's true, were you wrong about Harold's involvement? Is he really innocent? See anything, Cuthbert? Your Honor, it's clear that the prosecution has nothing left to argue. There's very little evidence implicating my client, and there's a far more likely suspect in front of us right now. She'd totally throw Harold under the bus for the sake of the revolution. Can you believe it? Yes, I must agree, Ms. Tamora. At the very least, I see no reason to prolong this trial any longer. Wait! Beatrice couldn't have personally done this. Discounting the fact that she's completely blind, she was with the two princes for most of the night. I love that song. I won't sing it, I don't want to get the VOD muted. So who actually killed William Frege in his study? Think about this. The reason why he suspected Harold in the first place was because of what Tracker said. Tracker's vocabulary is primitive and limited. He uses the word rat to describe small creatures that hide and act suspiciously. But even if it wasn't an actual rat, it still couldn't have been a human, right? You're right, it would have to be a small animal. A small animal with the strength and dexterity to traverse a small air vent while holding a sword. Do I have any other animals? The prince. Tyrion. Or what's his name? There aren't any other small aminals. Alaric, I meant. He could fit through the vents. He has an alibi. So it's the rats, huh? Tracker definitely saw some kind of animal. Was it someone else's familiar? Who did Tracker see in the air vent? Eugene! Another familiar. Right. No, it had to have been Eugene. Tracker found the sword in that hallway, and Eugene couldn't have communicated with Harold unless the sword... That's true. Why did you just happen to be in a hallway? It doesn't explain why the sword of spelling was even there. Tracker said that Eugene came out of the air vent on one side of the hallway, and then he fled the air vent to the other side. For a small monkey, this vent would have been extremely cramped. He wouldn't have entered this vent out of mere curiosity. Why was Eugene in the air vents? You know that Harold didn't participate in the murder. Did you know about what Eugene was doing that night? Eugene was acting because of blackmail. Huh. What? Can't say for sure why Eugene was there. Why are you asking me? Unlike that Harold even knew about it. I was going with somebody else had mind controlled him, but Eugene was acting of his own free will. That's the explanation that makes the most sense. But how and why? Harold is the only person that is magically connected to Eugene. I think that's established, but let's double check. Once the bond is formed, neither the caster nor the target can form bonds with any other creature. This bond can only be broken in death? Huh. Is there a way that... Oh, maybe the sword just completely breaks the rules of familial bond too. Does the anti-magic field nullify the rule that they can't bond with another creature? Or does the sword nullify that rule? Huh. Ha ha ha. Even if Beatrice somehow got Eugene to follow her orders, she wouldn't have been able to direct his actions telepathically. Beatrice couldn't use any other conjuration spell to contact him either. She was also in the anti-magic field when she was with Aster. If Eugene was the one who murdered William Frege, was he acting independently? No, that can't be possible. How could Eugene have carried out this plan independently? Also involved murdering William during the lockdown and destroying... I don't believe any of this crap. Why do I have to deduce this way? Eugene might be smart for a monkey, but a normal monkey wouldn't have known how to identify and destroy William's will, even if Beatrice had somehow trained him to do all this beforehand. Eugene have carried out independently. Yeah, wait, I was right. He did wear the art, yeah. I was thinking about that. No, it couldn't be. Let's go with the armband's intellect have been stolen as well. Eugene's wearing glasses. And unlike the sort of spell eating, we still haven't found the armbands. You look at the glass case for the armbands, used to be the thief didn't shatter the glass. Moreover, armbands are actually replaced with a very well-made replica. Magical locks on the case can be disabled. How are they normally disabled? They can be turned on and off using a spoken password. Eugene would know the password, but he would have to get the armbands first. Ah! They shattered... What if they shattered the case that was over the armbands and then they swapped them? But then they'd have to sweep all the glass over there. That seems a little ridiculous. Ever see the transport these items when they're moved? Only Harold knows the password, but someone could have overheard him saying it. Someone that's constantly looking over his shoulder. You've made some ridiculous statements in the past, but there's no way the judge will even entertain this theory. You'll have to be smart about this. Your Honor, I think there's one more witness that can clear up the discrepancy once and for all. The dog. I believe he called the parrot to the stand. Really? I frankly find that hard to believe. Please trust me, Your Honor. There's an element to this that we all aren't seeing. Hard to believe. What do you have planned now? Very well. I'll give you one last chance, Mr. Cuthbert. But know that if your next witness fails to unveil any new information, I won't hesitate to end this trial. I understand, Your Honor. Call the whale to the stand. I haven't played that one yet. I'm going to need you to monkey with me for a moment. Why? Your Honor, the defense calls Eugene Haraldson to the stand. Oh wait, he can talk to animals. Never mind, I retract my earlier statement. I'll be passing my verdict. Wait, just bear with me for a moment. Mr. Cuthbert, I should find you in contempt for even suggesting this. Do you honestly think I'll allow a monkey to give testimony in my courtroom? Yeah, it sounds pretty out there even for us. I'd like to remind the court of the nature of Harold's bond with Eugene. Eugene is a familiar. This means that Harold Haraldson can speak with him telepathically. Alright, they have more of a case to bring an animal to the stand than they did in Ace Attorney games. Show me the law that says an animal... Is he airbutting him? Gonna make a monkey out of him. Dude, he just airbud claused his way to getting Eugene on the stand. Maybe unprecedented, but it's not against the law. Absolutely airbutting. Very well. Your Honor, you can't be serious right now. Are you actually going along with this? Oh, Miss Timora, I am looking for any possible reason not to entertain this. But Mr. Cuthbert has a point. There are no laws against his proposal. So I have no choice but to oblige his, frankly, insane actions for now. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It's not as if this will reveal anything. I can't believe I'm saying this, but bailiff, please escort Lord Haraldson's monkey to the stand. Is he gonna get his own spray? Aw, he's adorable. Witness, please state your name and occupation to the court. I could do without the sarcasm this time more. Eugene is Eugene! Eugene Monkey! Bailiff, make sure the stenographer gets Haraldson's translations. You can't see the armbands on him right now. He must be at his normal intelligence now. He's so freaking cute. Although, how would he even wear them? He'd wear them as a belt. Perhaps he held them in his hands. They only require physical contact after all. Eugene, did you steal from the gallery on the night of the murder? Ook, ook, ag, ag! Eugene never steal from Harold. Eugene respect Harold. Then you'll have no problem testifying about where you went during the Lord's ball. I can't believe I let you convince me to permit this. Whoop. Ook, ook! Eugene explore house. Eugene look for new place to play. Ag, ag! Eugene also look for spiders. Spiders, yum, yum! Ook! You think Eugene steal armbands of intellect? Ook, ag! Eugene never steal from Harold. Harold friend. Ook, ook, ag, ag! Eugene always Harold's friend. Apes strong together. Wow. You did it, Cuthbert. You blew this case wide open. Is this really going to help us? Look, you'll just have to trust me on this. I trust you? That sentence sounded like it turned into a question at the end. Cross-product examination. Eugene But Harold is an associate of House Frege. Surely you visited Frege Manor before that night. Manor constantly changes. William always doing renovations. There's always a new discovery to be made. I suppose that makes sense. William certainly had the gold for it. What else did you do that night? Do you enjoy eating spiders? Spiders good, rich in nutrients. Urgh. Wait, really? Some cultures in Eastern Kingdoms eat roasted crickets. I've tried them. They're actually not bad if they're prepared correctly. I don't think I could ever be that adventurous. Can we please stay on topic? I wasn't accusing you of anything, Eugene. Perhaps you accidentally unlocked the case and took them thinking they were some sort of toy. This could all be an honest mistake. Eugene not dum-dum! Eugene know how important artifacts are to Harold. Eugene never take from him. You might not have knowingly done it, but perhaps you took one of the artifacts by accident. Eugene never do that! And how do you explain your brief contact with the Sword of Spell Eating? Harold couldn't have telepathically contacted you unless one of you was wielding it. Ah! Is that the hear no evil emoji? Eugene don't understand question. Right, you won't understand how the sword works without its heightened intelligence. Unless. Do you consider yourself close to Harold? I would guess so. They literally have a magic connection with each other. Do they need to be null magicked on both ends or just one end? That's the thing that what I feel like was explained differently. Right, I suppose a bond between a mage and a familiar would require a lot of trust. Harold saved Eugene from a bad man years ago. Eugene would never betray. Oh, he saved him from an organ grinder. So you're a rescue. Bad man locked Eugene in cage. He told people to throw peanuts at Eugene. It's Donkey Kong. I'll take Eugene away from that prison. Lock up, bad man. He seems to genuinely care for Harold. Could that be why he did this? Clearly feels indebted to him. That might have been his motive. Tyrion? I know this looks bad, but I swear there's more to this than meets the eye. If you say so. There has to be something in his statements. He had to have been wearing the armbands on the night of the murder. Which thought reveals that? Think about how Tracker speaks. Is there anything different in the way Eugene is speaking right now? How do you know about the armbands of intellect? You didn't know about the sword.
Objection!
Wait a minute. Eugene, I asked you before if you stole anything from Harold's gallery. Eugene, no! Eugene would never steal from Harold. Cuthbert, don't waste our time by having him repeat that statement. That's the thing, Miss Timora. That's not the same statement he made in his testimony. I asked the witness if he stole an artifact from the gallery. I never mentioned the armbands of intellect. Ook? What are you talking about now? The witness lacks the understanding to differentiate between the artifacts. It was clearly just a simple mistake. It's not just the fact that he named the wrong artifact, Ms. Timora. It's the fact that he used its actual name. I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean, Mr. Cuthbert. Your Honor, animals can't speak the same way that humans do. Even when a telepathic link is established, their vocabulary is extremely limited. Hey, Tracker called the Sora spell-eating a stick before. It was hard to understand what he really meant. Exactly, so this raises the question, how did Eugene know that they were called the Armbands of Intellect? Wait, how did he know? The armbands were stolen during the Lord's Ball and replaced with a well-made replica. They're the Armbands of Intellect right now. If he had worn the armbands when he was sneaking through the vents, he would have never had the opportunity to put them back. Are they still in the vents? Maybe Tracker took him. We need to look at everyone's picture. I wish I was paying more attention to if anyone had bracelets on. Wait, I've got them on. Better save it. Eugene is wearing the armbands at this moment. Tracker hid the armbands under Beatrice's bed. Eugene must have worn the armbands when Tracker caught him sneaking through the vents. The armbands are still missing, and the investigation probably prevent him from discreetly putting them back. How the heck am I supposed to know? Oh wait. He's gotta be still wearing them because he still knows the name of them. It can't be, is he really? The armbands were designed to be worn by humans, so Eugene couldn't wear them on his arms. So where would he wear them? You initially thought that he carried them in his hands, but there's a far simpler explanation. He's using it as a necklace. Eugene, do you still maintain that you didn't steal the armbands of intellect? Eugene told you. Eugene never steal from Harold. And I suppose you wouldn't mind taking off your hat. Oh man, the anime glasses shimmer. Are you serious right now? You don't think he's wearing them right now, do you? It's the only thing that makes sense. His other catchphrase. The armbands were taken on the night of the murder, and they're still missing. If Eugene did indeed steal the armbands that night, he would never have had the opportunity to return them. He could have hidden them in the vents, but the fact that he still knew the name of them kind of alludes to the fact. This is absolutely ridiculous. You're spinning a fairy tale. Face. Do you honestly suspect us to believe that a monkey increased its intellect beyond human limits? If I'm wrong, the witness can easily refute my theory by removing his hat. Well, what's it gonna be, Eugene? See him fully break character and he slowly but silently lifts his... Dude, it's Gunther from Futurama. He has a hat that gives him super intelligence. No, you can't be serious. Everyone can see it plainly. He's wearing the armbands like a crown around his tiny head. He has a pipe. From out of his hat, you see him pull out something else. You can't smoke in the courtroom. Well done, Mr. Cuthbert. I shouldn't have underestimated you. What? Are you serious? This is probably a blessing in disguise. I don't think I could bear debasing myself any longer. What in the world? Objection, Your Honor. On what grounds, Ms. Timora? On what grounds? Everything about this situation is objectionable. It's downright absurd. Is he seriously Beatrice's accomplice? Wait, so you don't know? But Ms. Timora, we can't deny what's clearly in front of us. I was not ready for today. This isn't even the craziest part. Just saddle in. How is he even talking right now? Scholars believe that humans and apes evolved from a common ancestor. Perhaps all apes can speak the common language under the right circumstances. Evolved? Please. I've observed your society. I think calling humanity evolved is being quite generous. This can't be happening. Well, are you all done gawking at me like a bunch of simpletons? Simpletons? Wait a minute. It's quite difficult to separate myths from actual historical accounts. Right, I remember encountering a similar problem at the Imperial Academy. Ah, you must be quite dedicated to your studies. They let this simpleton into the Imperial... Even if he hasn't heightened intelligence, they should still have the empathic link, right? Someone thinks Celeste is best waifu. Suppose that can't be helped. Well, he learned the word simpleton from his master. Every insulting thought that you have seen from Harold, they weren't Harold's thoughts at all. They were Eugene's thoughts. It's the other way. Oh, no way. Oh, it's funny. Did Eugene pulled out the pipe too, didn't he? But I still don't understand. Why would you even take the armbands in the first place? I'll admit that the Lord's Ball was one of many occasions. The first time I touched them was due to sheer chance. You put them on by... Oh, so he's actually Mojo Jojo. Oh, no. My unawakened self was enamored by its glittering sheen. Oh, I merely wanted to touch them, but when I first held them in my hands, I experienced a sense of clarity that I'd never felt before. I was afraid of what I'd experienced, so I left them alone. As I returned to my primitive lifestyle, I couldn't stop thinking about what I felt that day. You were hurt. I wouldn't quite phrase it like that, but I suppose you're not wrong. I already knew the password to Harold's vault, so I'd come in from time to time and indulge in the armband's power. But the more time I spent with my awkward, awakened intellect, the more I craved its power when I had to put them away. And that's when you made the replica. While no one was watching, I devised a plan to discreetly take the armbands. Harold would have eventually discovered that they were stolen, but he would have concluded that a noble from the Lord's Ball took them. Because if he's so smart, why is he confessing all this? Because of the pressure that he was receiving from the crown. I'm not proud of what I've done, but I never expected things to reach this point. I didn't expect someone to steal the sword of spell eating as well. And I certainly didn't expect a murder to happen that night. Overconfidence. True. He reminds me of the Velociraptor from Jurassic Park 2 parody in The Critic. Some of the other raptors and I constructed a crude hovercraft, but perhaps I've said too much. Mr. Pilkington, yeah, where I will assume odd jobs under the name Mr. Pilkington. Exactly. I think he also had a pipe. Of course I do. I stole the armbands, but I did not murder William Frege, nor did I take the sword of spell eating. Allow me to elaborate. I'll admit that I took the armbands. Oh no, we still need to call the dog to the stand. Maybe we'll give the dog the armbands. I'll admit that I took the armbands and replaced them with a replica, but I was not the crook who stole the sword of spell eating. The thefts were completely different from one another. The display case with the sword was completely shattered. I spotted the sword when I was exploring the manor. It was lying in the middle of a hallway. I wondered why such an important artifact would be lying there, so I took a closer look to inspect it. That's when I heard Harold call out to me telepathically. The sword must have protected me and Harold from the anti-magic field. I wanted to take the sword and return it, but a wild dog chased me away from the scene. He has a point. He didn't need to shatter the display case of the sword. Yeah, he already knew the passwords. But Tracker said that Eugene was the one who dropped the sword. I don't think he did. Furthermore, he escaped into the air vent that led into William's study. His actions that night were definitely not as innocent as... So, like, Dog has kind of implied that there were two different rats. He's distinguished between the jumping rat and the flying rat, right? We're making too many assumptions here. I still think it's Ruby, even though she had that thought about the monkey not being the accomplice. Must have lied somewhere. Cross-product examination. You stole the armbands by using Harold's spoken password, am I correct? Yes. I sit on his shoulder most of the time. He obviously never suspected what I'd do, so it was a simple matter of listening to him when he transported the artifacts to Frege Manor. I can assume that you knew the passwords to the other displays as well. I do, and I can easily demonstrate it. You doubt that he'd lie about that when you can easily check it. Even so, you already lied about not stealing the armbands. Why should we believe you? The answer to that lies in the physical evidence. How do we know that you didn't shatter the glass to cover your tracks? Harold's password nullifies the locks, but they don't fully nullify the magic that protects the glass. Harold told you himself, didn't he? Only a powerful mage could have shattered the reinforced glass. But as a familiar, magic can be cast through you. Only Harold can cast magic through me. I can't cast any spells by myself. And even if I could, Harold's spell compendium doesn't have a spell that's powerful enough for that. His logic is sound, but if what he's saying is true, who shattered the glass? Anyways, I spotted the sword when I was exploring the manor. Okay. But that location was near Frege's bedrooms. Don't tell me that you... What do you take me for? I know what a bedroom looks like, and I'd never enter one uninvited. Then why were you there in the first place? I was coming back from the rooftop garden. There's a rooftop garden? That's not on the map. But I suddenly felt something interfering with the armband's magic. The anti-magic fields. Yes, I was worried that something had happened, so I made my way back to the gallery to meet up with Harold. I see. Could you add this to your testimony? Very well. And that's when you made contact with it? Yes, I was quite surprised too. At the time, the magic of the armbands was being nullified. But when I picked up the sword, my intelligence finally returned. That's how I knew that I was holding the sword of spell eating. Is the first time he tried to contact you this night? No. He had telepathically messaged me earlier that night, but was so absorbed in my exploration that I ignored him. Harold did say that he ignores him sometimes. So, did that really cause him to ignore a call from Harold? Didn't you have enough time to grab the sword? You were holding it after all. I'm not proud to admit it, but my survival instincts took over. At that point, I was more concerned about escaping that wild animal. I suppose that makes sense. Tracker is several times larger than him, and he had every reason to be afraid. The story makes sense. There's no way he could have shattered the glass. I suppose so, but Tracker saw him that night. He's definitely traversing the vents in the hallway, which means he lied somewhere in his testimony. Huh? You're heading directly from the rooftop garden to the gallery? But do you honestly expect us to believe that someone just left the sword of spell eating in that hallway? Think what you will, but it's the truth. Perhaps the murderer left it there after they were done using it. If the Kingsguard found it there, they would have had no idea who stole it. That does sound possible, but you shouldn't be so quick to believe him. There is no... Which part got added? Wait. But no. That doesn't make sense. How would you know there was an important artifact sitting there? The anti-magic field would have been in effect.
Objection!
I'm right, I don't care what this game thinks. It's better to save it so I don't run out of hit points. Where did the dog find the sword? Also in exchange for this hallway north of Beatrice's bedroom. We saw a flying rat come out from the northern air vent. Tracker barked at his friends. Sure.
Objection!
There's, like, he's jumping to conclusions that the monkey is the rat. The flying rat. I don't like this. Eugene, I'm sure you're well aware of this, but the best way to lie is to hide a false detail within many truths. And what are you trying to insinuate, Mr. Cuthbert? You said that you were heading from the terrace to the gallery. Did you take any detours? Of course not. The armband's nullified. My intelligence was slowly fading. Oh, it was slowly fading. Okay. Then my other guess would have been wrong. That's good. I wanted to return to Harold as soon as possible. Vince, I'd like for you to take a look at this floor map of Frege Manor. This is the location where the wild dog found the sword of spell eating. I was actually going to present the map. So tell me, Eugene, how did you spot the sword of spell eating? When it was hidden in the hallway north of Beatrice's room. That's... Why are you nitpicking such an insignificant statement? You probably just got distracted and went down the wrong hallway. This time more, Eugene came from the rooftop garden, and he was adamant that he went directly to the gallery to reunite with Harold. Was the rooftop garden actually on the map? Oh, wow, I feel really dumb, actually. Alright. I take everything mean back that I said in the last 5 minutes. Even if his intellect was muddled, he was intent on reuniting with his worried companion. He definitely took the direct route, but if he did, he never would have been able to see to that hallway. As to your point, Mr. Cuthbert, but what does it mean? It means that the witness lied about where he was before he discovered the sword of spell eating. He wasn't coming from the rooftop garden. He came from the air vents in that specific hallway. Aye! Oh, that monkey committed perjury. So, Why were you in that hallway, Mr. Eugene? Miss Eugene. I wonder if they changed his occupation. Age 20. You lied in your testimony. Was it because you wanted to hide what you were really doing that night? Admit it, Eugene. You snuck through the air vents to avoid detection. Then you used the air vent in that hallway to break into William's study. After that, you murdered him using his letter opener, didn't you? That's not what I went there to do. You went there to go throw his poop. No, I didn't mean... Oh, but he did go there. He admitted that much. Order! Order in the court. Witness, is this true? Did you break into William Frigga's study during the lockdown? Yes, I did enter his study, but not for the reason you think. William Frigga was already dead when I got there. What? What did you just say? It's true. Do you honestly expect us to believe a story like that? How could someone else have killed the victim before you got there? Tracker took the sword of spell eating, and you were the only intelligent creature that could walk through the air vents. I understand how unbelievable and suspicious it sounds. Why do you think I lied in the first place? But it's the truth, Mr. Cuthbert. You have to believe me. You don't see any contradicting thoughts to the eye, but that hardly absolves him of guilt. But could he really be telling the truth? If that's true, that only brings you back to one question you've been asking yourself since all began. Who really did this? Okay, Eugene, let's assume you're telling the truth. Do you actually believe me? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. You're still my only suspect for this. Forgot about Beatrice again? But I know better than anyone about jumping to conclusions. So, he's really good at jumping to conclusions, actually, as it turns out. Look at these cuffs. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for now. I see. However, if you want to absolve yourself, I need you to tell me about what you really saw that night. There might be something, anything that might point to who really did this. Very well. I'll tell you what I saw. Although I doubt you'll believe me. I discreetly made my way back to that hallway through the air vent, through another air vent. I exited the air vent in the hallway and tried to leap to the other side. I'm not sure if it was my waning intelligence or my desperation, but I collided with something that I didn't see. I fell to the ground and found the sword spell eating laying next to me. I wanted to retrieve the sword, but that wild dog forced me to retreat. After that, I continued to make my way to the study. And that's when I found William Frege. He was dead on the floor and dying in a pool of blood. And, as if I were blessed by the Scale Lord himself, I found that the will that he was drafting, so I destroyed it. You did what? Why? Frankly, Mr. Haraldson, I find that story very difficult to believe. I assumed as much, but you know what they say. Truth is stranger than fiction. Isn't it more likely that you murdered the victim? You're clearly trying to cover up what you did by saying that he was already dead. Honestly, I really don't know what to think. Is he really telling the truth? But why were you there in the first place? It all began when William Frege got into an argument with Harold. That cur wanted to defund the prestigious Haraldson Hall of History. I knew a man like William probably had many secrets, so I devised a plan to break into his study and find something that I could use to blackmail him. As you know, there's a small air vent in the hallway, and it connected to William's study on the ground floor. I was unaware that William was planning to stay in his study all night, so I thought I could look through his documents without anyone seeing me. You suppose that does make sense, but is he really telling the truth? What happened when you tried to leap through the other air vent, Eugene? I thought monkeys were extremely dexterous. Are you just clumsy? I have impeccable dexterity. Sounds like he struck a nerve there. I must have been muddled from losing the armed man's magic. How'd you know it was the sword of spell eating? When I held it in my hands, I felt my intelligence return, but I also heard Harold calling out to me telepathically. He was clearly growing worried, so I knew I needed to move quickly. Did this wild dog have a white coat of fur? He did. Are you acquainted with him? Something like that. You're his king. Well, next time you meet him, tell him that I don't appreciate being called a rat. I am a proud orangutan. Can you understand him? I've picked up a little of the canine language throughout my life. I'm also fluent in squirrel and pigeon. Pigeon? You mean flying rat? I can also speak owl, but I admit it's barely conversational. As much as you want to test the validity of those claims are not relevant to the case. What happened when you entered a study? It seems awfully convenient that he was murdered before you arrived. I know how it may seem, but I'm telling you the truth. Do you have any explanation for how the assailant broke into the study without the sword? I unfortunately do not. Please, it's obvious your testimony doesn't match up with the evidence. Whoever did this either entered through the vents or they used the sword to nullify the lock, and your own testimony states that the sword was abandoned in that hallway. After the murder, I might remind you. Doesn't match up with what you thought happened, but does it really contradict the evidence you have? Anyways, what did you do when you discovered the body? I knew it was only a matter of time before someone discovered the body, so I quickly searched the room for something I could use. So you were the one who took the will. I've been trying to find it. What did it say? I was pressed for time, so I didn't read the entire document, but I found an order to his executor to defund the Haraldson Hall of History. Oh, you just gave yourself a motive. Since he went out of his way to specify that on the current copy, I concluded that his former will didn't have this addendum. So you could save Harold's museum by making sure it never got submitted for probate. Anyways, did you have the will with you? My apologies, I crumpled up the will into a ball and ate it. I'm gonna have to check his poop. And then I left the room before my intelligence was completely gone. Ugh. You're really hoping to see if William followed through with his threat to disinherit Beatrice. Can't see any direct contradictions. The poop mini game, yeah. Should you press him more? What if he's telling the truth? Eugene did do this. Your next course of action is clear. Although, that still wouldn't explain how Beatrice fits into this. You recall something that Tracker said to you. Tracker, you said you had to smell to see where the rat was. And when he dropped his stick, you were finally able to see him. Does this mean you couldn't visually see him before he fell down? Yeah, Tracker couldn't see the rat with his eyes. So Tracker used his nose to see it. Eugene was invisible. Eugene, when you were carrying out your plan, did you turn yourself invisible somehow? No. I hardly had the means to. And even if I had somehow convinced Harold to cast a spell on me, he doesn't know how to cast invisibility. Very few mages do. Right. You recall Eris saying the same thing during the Nightgrave trials. Only a master of illusion magic could do that. That's how you first thought Beatrice was involved. But if Eugene is truly innocent, did she turn someone else invisible? But if that's true, you're back right where you started again. No, think through this. Eugene's testimony fills in a blank that's been missing. I fell to the ground and found the sword of spell eating laying next to me. I knew it was a sword of spell eating. I held my hands, felt my intelligence return. Right. So you had to be holding the sword for the invisibility to stay in effect. But I also heard Harold calling out to me, telepathically, was clear on sort of study. And what happens when you cross-reference that with Tracker's testimony? Tracker smelled flying rat. Tracker could smell where a rat was. So Tracker borked at him. Tracker must have scared him because he fell onto the floor and dropped his stick. How did the sword of spell eating end up in that hallway? Where does that leave us? The thief dropped the sword in the hallway. The thief dropped the sword in that hallway. But how does that make sense? Did they hide the sword there like you originally thought? No. That hallway was close to the gallery. There were plenty of better places to hide the sword. If it weren't for Tracker taking it, it would have been found even sooner. The thief must have accidentally dropped the sword there. This can only mean one thing. Why was the thief in that hallway? The thief was tunneling through the hallway. Why was the thief in that hallway? The thief was walking through the hallway. That hallway leads toward the bath. I think very. I didn't say hallway. Sneaking. Alright, fine. The thief was also sneaking through the air vents. That's the only reason why they thought they'd be there. But that would imply that the thief was as small as Eugene. Could it have been another familiar? And if so, why didn't Eugene notice him? Wait. I'm not sure if it's my waning intelligence or did I collide with something that I didn't see. Alright. Collided with something he didn't see? In other words, it was something that wasn't visible to him. As a master of illusion magic, Beatrice is one of the few people at the ball that could cast invisibility. Beatrice never trusts anyone enough to work together like this. If she's completely blind, she wouldn't have much of a choice. Even so, she's not the type of person to trust her accomplice to stay quiet. This monkey talks all the time. Why would she trust him? She'd find a way to carry out a plan herself, and she'd only employ someone else up if she had full control of him. Okay, she did it was saying that Beatrice had control over her accomplice. But she would also have full control over a familiar. Have you been approaching the situation incorrectly the entire time? You don't say. Through the eye, you knew that Beatrice was involved somehow, but you just assumed that she was one part of a larger plot. Breaking of the glass, the casting of invisibility, these are the elements that you knew she was involved with, but it never really fit together. Not unless she was the one pulling the strings the entire time. Only one way she could be in control the entire time. What Beatrice used to commit the murder. A couple of memories flood into your mind. Familiar is a creature that a mage has formed a magical contract with. With that contract, your souls are bonded. I can speak with him telepathically. I could even see through his eyes. Cast my spells from him if I wanted to. Really? I never knew a spell like that existed. It's quite rare. Very few mages take the time to learn how to cast it. Hi, I'm Tyrion Cuthbert. I'm Miss Tamora's ward. You sent out your hand to shake hers. There's an aristocratic air to so I hope you're not being too informal. She's casting invisibility. What? Ah, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. It's a bit of a habit of mine. She does it all the time to make it less suspicious when she's actually casting invisibility. I've heard much about you, Mr. Cuthbert. My name is Beatrice. You didn't know that she was blind back then, so you barely even noticed it. How did she know that you were holding out your hand? Well, do you have any other questions for me? You're wrong about this. Beatrice will surely be acquitted. After that, the Inquisition will turn their attention to Harold and Eugene. Better save it. There's only one way to know for sure. Your Honor, the prosecution has no further questions for the current witness. He is dismissed. What? I see. You have something else planned, don't you? Yeah, and I actually need your help. Really? Tell her about your plan. Really? You feel like you're making some... I feel like you're making some big assumptions there. Won't the Inquisition check for something like that? Oh yeah, I know, it's the best play we have. You remember what Steelwind said yesterday? The moment the guards saw the body, one of them cast Detect Magic. That spell, they would have seen any invisible people hiding in this room. Invisible people? Wait, you can use Detect Magic like that? Of course, it's standard procedure. Like all spells, invisibility leaves traces of magic on the person it's cast on, so mages can use Detect Magic way to see through invisibility. If everything goes the way I think it will, you'll be able to confirm its location. Once you do that, you'll just need to reveal it to everyone. Alright, I'll follow your lead then. So, Mr. Cuthbert, how do we proceed? The previous witness brought about more revelations than I could have ever guessed. However, you still haven't given a substantial explanation about how the murder occurred or who actually did it. I understand that, Your Honor. It will all make sense after I call my next witness. Another witness? I understand your hesitance, Your Honor, but everything that we've learned throughout these trials is finally coming together. So, if she's trying to say that her accomplice is her familiar, kind of poopy. But I still think Ruby probably put her up to it. And this final witness will tie it all together in a perfect knot. Your Honor, the prosecution calls Beatrice Frege to the stand. Monkey. Seriously, Cuthbert? You went to all that trouble just to end up calling my client to the stand? You and your client have the right to refuse, Ms. Timura, but I wonder how that will reflect on your client's character. That's not how the Fifth Amendment works. It doesn't really matter. She's already standing here with Ms. Timura. You can carry out your plan regardless of what she decides to do. Much more impact if you can bait her into lying on the stand. My client says that she's willing to testify. However, we would like to propose a short recess. With these new developments, I'm sure you can understand that we have much to discuss. I see no reason not to grant the defense's request. Is this really okay? If you give them the time to prep, they might realize what we're doing. I know, but I don't think we have anything to worry about. I've been building up a psychological profile of Beatrice since this began. Hard to read her expressions and emotions even with the Eye of Horus. She keeps herself guarded and keeps her true intentions unknown. She's powerful, more powerful than her father ever cared to admit. Despite this, he tried to control her and put her inside a cage. Beatrice Frege would never live in a cage. She wanted freedom and control. That's why she has a flying rat. She would do whatever it took to get it. You sure the accident that blinded her didn't help things? When everything was said and done, she abandoned everything, her wealth, her status, her family. She could have waited. She could have gritted her teeth until it was her turn in the lead house Frege. She was willing. She could have even secretly pushed her father past the gates of death herself. She couldn't bear to live like that, even temporarily. You have no idea why this is how she chose to do that. Perhaps it had something to do with their meeting. But you do know one thing. Beatrice Frege will never put herself in a position of vulnerability. If you endanger her freedom, she will make sure that she can see who she's up against. In the interest of giving the defense time to deliberate, we'll begin taking an extended recess. Court is adjourned. As you're exiting the courtroom, you sent Celeste to do some reconnaissance. It should be similar to when she scanned Valentina during the Nightgrave trial. Tyrion! Celeste, were you able to see it? Yeah, it's definitely there, and it sits on her shoulder most of the time. So she keeps it close to her. That's good to know. It looks kind of weird though, but I've never used detect magic like this before. Well, you doubt that someone like her would choose a conventional animal, especially for something like this. Is it an owl? Or a pigeon? Cuthbert. Ms. Timura. There's something I need to show you. Preferably alone. Celeste gives you a concerned look, but you nod to show her it's okay. She moves to sit on the bench where she can keep an eye on Beatrice. Okay, lead the way. Oh, man. Alright, Technomagus. Should I finish this chapter now, or should I do it next stream? It's already almost 11. Ah, man. Alright. I do have to go into work early again tomorrow. I'll be responsible. Alright, good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.